Welcome, everyone, to Davos Fingers coverage of House of the Dragon. This is episode 136, covering episode 10 of House of the Dragon, The Black Queen. I'm Scatty, and with me, as always, is my buddy Matt.
Hello.
There he is.
Welcome, everybody, to our final episode, our final coverage of House of the Dragon, at least for season one. And it's supposed to be like a year and a half before season two comes out, right? Something like that.
2024. I don't know if they even teased a month, but yeah.
Jeez. So it goes without saying that this is our last House of the Dragon episode, but the same rules apply. We'll break down the episode, spoiler-free, scene by scene. And then at the end of the episode, for those of you who haven't read the book, you can drop off. For those of you that have, stick around, because we'll be doing a special segment called Dragons After Dark, where we get all spoiler-ific and predict what we think might happen in season 2. Maybe we'll play around with that a little bit.
Season 2, they might be a little more broad, our predictions than as specific as what's happening next episode.
As specific as where's Harold Westerling, yeah. Which I totally got wrong. Guy? Which I totally got wrong in my prediction. But anyways, we'll get to that.
If you're interested in our coverage of Fire and Blood, these same events happen in a book that was published called Fire and Blood, or similar events, as we'll get to in this episode.
Yep.
They can be found in episode 83 of the Davos Fingers podcast. It doesn't line up perfectly. There's more in episode 83 than what's covered in this episode of House of the Dragon. The timelines are, messed with a little bit from book to show. So, beware of book spoilers as you listen, but check out those episodes. They're good. We squeezed a lot into that episode.
We really did pack a lot into a couple of episodes. You can check out these weekly episodes wherever you find your podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. There is a little actual House of the Dragon playlist created that you can find, and you can watch all 10 of these suckers just back to back to back to back to back. And if you want to chat, we'd love to hear from you. You know all the ways to send us a raven. Our email address is wearedavosfingers@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. Our Twitter is @DavosFingers. You can even leave us a comment on the YouTube channel. There's plenty of ways to find us, so just do it. So, Scad, this is the end of our House of the Dragon coverage. What should we do next?
For now, yeah, until there are more episodes, I suppose, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll have Winds of Winter by then, and then who will care about House of the Dragon, right?
I think I saw somewhere that George said he's 3/4 of the way done.
Yeah,
which this pace means 2026, 2027.
Yeah. Depends on how you look at it. I'm taking a more rosy approach, which is unlike me. Anyone that listens to us regularly knows I'm a sourpuss. I'm a negative Nancy.
You? Who?
But I think of that more as, the
maybe the heavy lifting's done.
The last 25% is faster than the first 75.
Yeah.
Because the more of those loose ends you tie up, the easier the other loose ends are to tie up, right? So it should be, I don't know about exponentially faster, but it should be faster.
I'd like to think so. You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
I would. So, what's next? We are going to, toward the tail end of this year, we're going to do a couple more Meet the Khalasar episodes.
Why not?
We explored for, like 20 episodes we did of those or so.
A lot. Yeah.
They were a blast to get to meet some friends in the fandom. And so we're going to go with a couple more episodes and a couple surprise guests.
Yep.
Look forward to that. And
you're either going to really like it or really hate it.
Probably both.
Which is probably how you approach every Davos Fingers episode.
I wish they'd shut up. Move on. It's just a dress. And then we'll have some more announcements coming later about where our content's headed coming into the new year and things like that. So look forward to those. Ready to dive into the episode, Matt?
I'm ready to dive into the season finale of season 1 of House of the Dragon.
Yeah. It really dives in quick and with a scene that really grabs you of a mom talking to her son about duty.
How about that freaking table though at Dragonstone, huh?
Yeah, the table's nice. We don't get the full effect until later, but we do see it in this scene. Lucas caressing Driftmark longingly and also somewhat afraid, I think, of the duty that might befall him. What we learn is that, well, we learned it a couple episodes ago, the Corliss is very sick and may not live. And Luke is kind of terrified of taking on that mantle.
I really like that, actually. I like that they gave us that little wrinkle in his character. When you read Fire and Blood, it doesn't get too into the actual personalities of the boys. No. In fact, a lot of it is Luke and Jace together. Jace and Luke said this. Jace and Luke did this, you know, and you really, and Joffrey's in there. But you really kind of get the impression that they could almost be twins or something. They're very close in age. And I really like that Jace strikes me as more like action oriented. He accepts things as they are. He's able to just be like, you know, I don't look like a Targaryen, but I'm going to be a Targaryen, dang it. And he's going to, you know, push forward regardless of anything. Luke is a lot more cautious. He's thoughtful. He's kind of cynical. He's kind of not comfortable in his own skin. He says, I'll just ruin everything, he tells his mom. And I like that we get kind of those different personalities between the kids.
I like that too. I wouldn't have called it out, but I do like it. You're right. Jace seems more self-assured and accepting of the mantle that's being handled to him, and Luke is kind of less certain of himself. Right? It's interesting to see.
He reminds me of my own kid. I told you before we hit record here that I had 2 hockey practices tonight for my son Chewy. He loves hockey, and he is so afraid of screwing up. If he has a bad practice, he was so upset this last practice because he didn't score a single goal in practice. Because that's what you do in practices, score goals, right? No, goals don't matter in practice. And he just is beating himself up over it. And, you know, I'll just ruin everything. And Luke maybe isn't that dramatic, but you can tell that he feels that weight and that pressure to perform. And it's kind of tough when he can't, when he feels like he can't.
Yeah. We don't choose our destiny, it chooses us, Rhaenyra tells him.
Okay.
I kind of hate that, but okay. I mean, it's a Targaryen thing to say, I suppose.
It totally is. It totally is.
Yeah.
I totally respect, you know, what Rhaenyra is doing to try to comfort him and everything. But some of the stuff. My father looked after me and helped me prepare to do my duties. Did he?
Did he? Okay. Did he really?
We're giving him some credit for that. Okay.
And even more bullshit, and the Rhaenyra stands are going to hate me for it. In time, I realized I had to earn my inheritance. Bullshit. When did she start acting like she needed to earn this?
Hey, she went to a couple council meetings.
She went to some council meetings, but she always felt entitled to me, not like she had to like put her nose to the grindstone and earn this right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you know, I feel going back to Jace, I feel like he's trying to earn that. I mean, maybe the sting of bastardy has
he feels
put a real chip on his shoulder
like
about it.
Chip on his shoulder is a great way to describe it for him. Yeah,
but I don't feel like Rhaenyra ever felt like she needed to earn it. You know, right. She didn't have it for a while, and maybe she felt slighted, and then she was given it. But once she was given it, it kind of felt like she was just like, "All right, it's mine." There was that scene in the streets, right, where she's just like, "It doesn't matter what the people think."
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and her father kind of enabled her in that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed.
I just want to point out that I was completely wrong. I thought that they would combine perhaps the stories of Stefan Darklyn and Laurent Marbrand into the Harold Westerling character, and that he would go to Dragonstone and kind of be Rhaenyra's Barristan Selmy or whatever. No, they introduced those 2 exact characters for us, and they did still switch some things around, which we'll get to. But we very much have Laurent Marbrand and Stefan Darklyn, and Harold Westerling is out, I don't know, rowing the narrow sea with Gendry or something. I don't know. And Leonor.
He's waiting for there to be a king. This is what he said, right?
Probably.
Now there's 2. Look what you've done. How are your loins, Matt? We got a Marbrand this episode. You're a bit of a Marbrand fan.
I'm a bit of a Marbrand fan. They don't quite do it for me like a certain Tyrell does, but you know, I could definitely see me having drinks with a Marbrand.
If you had drinks.
If I drank.
Or a Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Mountain Dew. I'd do a dirty Mountain Dew with like flavors in it and stuff, you know.
Ooh, nice. Suicide. Is that what they still call him? It's probably not PC to call him that anymore.
Probably not.
Probably not. Apologies if I just triggered anyone. I did not think about it back in my movies 9 days of filling the drinks with every single thing.
That was the term for it. So,
all right. So you got anything else for this scene here?
No, I don't.
Luke clearly thinks that that Marbrand coming in to make an announcement is about Corlys's death. You can see the fear in his eyes right then.
Correct.
But it's not.
No.
Rhaenys delivers the heavy news in the next scene. Matt, what is it?
Oh boy. So she comes right in and you can tell that she kind of takes a breath and she just says it, which Rhaenys has a talent for doing. She cuts right to the point and says, Viserys is dead.
Yeah.
She lets it sit for just a second and then she says, and Aegon's been crowned king.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever been expecting bad news and then you get worse news?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That's what just happened to Rhaenyra. She was expecting to hear Corlys had died. Bad news. She hears Viserys is dead. And oh, by the way, Aegon's taking your crown.
Right.
And, also in the similar breath, it's, you ever had one of those things where like you've had ages to get ready for something, to plan for it and to prepare, and then you don't do it and you don't do it, and then it happens and suddenly you're like, holy shit, why didn't I plan for this?
Crap. I think I've done that with some of these episodes. No, I'm just kidding.
I haven't noticed. You've been marvelously prepared.
Oh, right back at you. No, but I don't mean to make light of what you're saying. It's absolutely true. And what a masterclass from all three of these actors in this scene. That's what just struck me from the very first watch. Daemon's face as he turns to Rhaenys when she says Viserys is dead. He has that like sincere sadness. It's the softest I've ever seen Daemon's face.
But it doesn't last long.
It doesn't last long. Nope. Rhaenyra is struggling. You see it in her eyes. She's struggling to even grasp what's happening. Rhaenys, you can see that like this isn't easy for her, but she's trying to stay blunt, but there's also a bit of compassion to her. Oh my gosh, it was just those scenes when she delivers that initial news is just, I loved it from all three actors.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely showing some pain in some different ways. I mean, Rhaenyra, physical pain. I mean, it's almost as if this news causes her to miscarry,
which I think was kind of what you predicted, right? In Dragons After Dark, I think you said that.
Well, I kind of. I said a little differently.
Luke.
I predicted Luke would cause her to miscarry because I thought that. I remembered seeing in the preview that she was standing and upright receiving this news, and she is. Yeah. So, I predicted a little bit differently. But in Fire and Blood, it is still different than Fire and Blood. In Fire and Blood, she's in the birthing bed already. Like I think when she gets that news,
right?
And bad stuff.
And of course, like you said, Daemon immediately goes, not immediately. He takes a moment. You can see it. But Daemon is one of those worst case scenario people. Or he's just trying to twist events to fit his hatred of the Hightowers. And immediately he goes to, he was killed.
Yeah, he's not a, I'm going to take that and internally process it and deal with it in a healthy way kind of guy. He's a, let me lash out at other people and deal with that.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah.
7 stages of grief and all that. I mean, certainly we all deal with these things in our own ways, and most people go through multiple of these stages, right? But yeah, David almost immediately, other than this moment of softness where you see real sadness for him, almost immediately assumes it's murder. Almost immediately. And you wonder, he's not the only one that did that. Beesbury pretty immediately jumped to murder too. So he's not alone. It's certainly something that you could
see it.
You can see it. You can put those dominoes together in that way.
Yep.
And I wonder if Daemon if he would have jumped to murder if Aegon hadn't been crowned.
Right.
If he had just died and they hadn't crowned him, would he have still thought murder? I wonder.
Right. Yep. I get it. I totally get it, actually, from Daemon. And I can see why you'd think that. Oh, the king is dead, and all of a sudden the son is the new king.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he lashes out at Rhaenys too. You could have done something about this. You could have burned
Yeah.
him for it. He
Uh-huh.
says, and
In a
Rhaenys,
microcosm of what the fandom had been saying for the last
yes.
week.
And Rhaenys answered the fandom and Daemon in what I think a lot of us kind of were saying, like it's not really in her character to do that. It's not her right to do it either.
Yeah.
She's not the one that's going to, benefit from this war, and it's not hers to do. And
Right.
I liked it. I thought it was a good moment from her. She doesn't back down from anybody. I love it.
Right. But
She's
she's
been one of my
also
favorite
very
pieces
thoughtful
of the
about it.
show.
Absolutely. Like I always thought, Rhaenys, the queen who never was. She's cool. She's in Fire and Blood. Like she's a great character. She's great. But this, and of course, everybody knows. Sked, you're sick of me talking about it. Eve Best's portrayal of her. Isn't it crazy how an actor can help you appreciate a character even more?
Yeah.
And that is absolutely the case with Rhaenys. Now she's one of my favorite Fire and Blood characters.
Still wish they'd have given her black hair.
Black hair.
We'll let that go.
I thought that
she's a Baratheon, damn it.
She really is. Come on, guys. Give her a beard or something. Joking. But I thought back to a scene that felt kind of funny, like almost like a throwaway scene a couple episodes ago, where she is watching the Silent Sisters prepare Vaemon's corpse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she talks about all the stranger, how the stranger has afflicted her and her family so much. And to me, that scene, whereas before I was like, oh, that's a nice scene, but it feels kind of shoehorned in. It felt like, if they were deleting scenes to get, the episode down to a certain time, that could be a scene that you would cut. But that helped make this scene helped that scene make a little more sense to me.
How so?
In the sense that all this death that she has experienced, especially recently, and you talked about it in that episode that, Vaemond was really, tugging her chain before he died, but they have a history together, a long history together of being family, not to mention Laenor, who she thinks is dead, Laena, who actually is dead. Rhaenys has experienced a lot of loss and a lot of death, so it's not something that she is going to dole out casually. And well, casually maybe is not the right word for it, but all of that together has helped all of this kind of make more sense. And I think it really stays consistent to her character throughout the run of the show, which is the point I'm trying to make. Is it's cool how these little scenes kind of compile together to maybe make sense later on.
And build the character, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. She also tells them to leave Dragonstone at once, which was weird. I didn't really get it. I thought maybe it was a little bit of a parallel to Ned telling Cersei to do the same thing with her family. Like, get out. You're going. It's not going to end well for you unless you leave.
Right.
Which is an interesting take. In Fire and Blood, she's a lot of differences with Rhaenys in Fire and Blood. I mean, she's kind of ringing the war bell and saying she's the one that comes up with the idea of the dragons. I think in Fire and Blood that they have more of them, or there's a few of them kind of that share that idea. But
right,
she's very much feels like she's telling her to get out. This is not a fight you are going to win.
Yeah, maybe I was like, where would they go? Across the narrow sea, Essos?
Yeah, seems like it. Damon's done that before, right?
Right.
She knows that he's got haunts that he can go
back to Pentos or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, then we get this tragically beautiful dichotomy of a scene where, well, not dichotomy, but where you've got Rhaenyra in a callback to what her mother Emma said about a queen's place being in the birthing bed, right? Or queen's battle or queen's war being in the birthing bed. As Rhaenyra prepares to give birth and Daemon prepares for actual battle, or at least the defense of Dragonstone. Right?
Yep. Yeah. It's immediately made apparent, and Eowyn, my wife, also immediately she's just like, she doesn't look ready.
Right.
This baby is very early. And they tell us that in the show as well.
11 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we know it's not going to go well. And, they're playing with a theme here of, this news, this trauma kind of causing this miscarriage. But skipping ahead, I guess, to the actual birth, but, I think it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Based on the state of this child.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's pretty tragic.
You're right. So in a parallel, we have Damon getting, we have her struggling on her battlefield. We have Damon prepping his battlefield, which is really her battlefield.
Right.
She's the queen. It's her battle to fight. And she kind of takes some umbrage to that, right?
Oh yeah, you definitely see that throughout the episode of him saying, "Well, I've already done this." Again, we're skipping ahead, and she's like, "Oh," this looks that she gives him. He's pretty prudent in the preparations he's making.
Yeah.
But he's also very enthusiastic about it. Like, this is the moment he's been waiting for. Like, he has just been waiting for the moment to strike at the high towers. And now that it's here, oh, he's ready.
Yeah. Ready and also not ready. Like if they really thought this was going to come, there's so much more they could have done and been ready to, like.
Sure.
We can come back. We'll come back to all that when we talk about some of the other prep. But he's in
his element.
He's capable of doing this. He's in his element. He's ready. He knows exactly what to do to defend this place. He's probably, like the other night I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized I was having soccer dreams. I haven't played soccer in a damn decade. More than that, probably. Right? I'm old now. I don't play anymore. I used to play a lot. And I was passing good. I was okay. But I thought about it all the time. I dreamt about it. I replayed moments from my games in my head. Always thinking about it. Mm-hmm. He's probably been thinking about how to defend Dragonstone for his whole life. He's probably been thinking about that forever. So this is, second nature to him.
Right. Yeah. Rhaenyra says to Jace and Luke, he's gone to plot his war. He's always had that vendetta, and he's always wanted to strike at the high towers. And you're right. He's probably always thought about defending Dragonstone. I know, like, my best friend, who is a former Marine and everything, like, whenever he goes into any type of place, whether it be a store or another home or something, he's always thinking about exit points and how he would defend himself in, like, an active shooter situation. Like, he just does that like second nature. And
that's anxiety on a whole level I could not handle.
Yeah, to him it's almost like fun, and I don't understand it, but yeah, this is fine.
So she uses that. He's gone to plot his war more as not a casual thing, but as a warning almost. Like, don't let him.
Right.
Don't let them do stuff. Not as be done, but by my command, she says to Jace. And Jace, like a dutiful son, goes. And we're kind of skipping through the scenes here quickly.
That's fine.
They do happen quickly.
They move pretty quick, yeah.
But Jace does. He goes and he tries to stop Daemon, who basically ignores him.
Just as, like, he's ignoring Rhaenyra's screams.
Yeah. Daemon doesn't. He's not in there helping her.
She's even yelling, "Daemon, Daemon!" And he just he's like, "What are you guys looking at? What are you?" Yeah.
I didn't notice she was yelling Daemon. I heard screams, but
only like twice she yells like Daemon.
I mean, totally different scenarios. It's hard to imagine not being there when your wife goes through something like this. But as we see in this episode, I think their relationship is maybe different than we've been led to believe over these last few episodes. And we'll come back to that with the storytelling later, maybe. But he's not there for her. He is off doing his own thing, which he probably thinks is more important. And straight up ignores Jace's commands to stop. Has Bartimus Celtigar send ravens, despite Jace telling him to stop everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing we'll talk maybe more about is Daemon's got a lot of emotional stuff going on with him. And one thing that he's
does.
pretty incapable of doing, I've noticed in this episode, and as I think back to earlier episodes, I see it too. He doesn't do a good job at consoling or helping others in their grief or in their times of need.
Yeah.
He just doesn't, it's not within him to just like put his hand on someone's shoulder or something and just be like, it's going to be okay. But
he did that at Emma's death though.
correct. That's the one time where it was like, and it was with Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Maybe ironically enough,
Yeah.
that he was really there for her.
But it was also kind of on behalf of Viserys. It was to Rhaenyra,
Mm-hmm.
but also kind of on behalf of Viserys. But yeah, I agree with you. And there are people very much like that. I think I'm maybe a little bit like that. I'm not great at consoling and helping people deal with their grief. I don't think it's a strength of mine for sure. There are definitely people like that.
Even like when he was at the scene when they went and saw Viserys for the first time and saw him in his very emaciated state, and he like immediately started talking about business stuff, right? Of we need to do this and this and this and this. Remember, like he can't process those emotions.
There are people that are like this. As soon as something bad happens, they turn to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they deal with grief. That's how they deal with trouble. That's how they think they need to go to something that they can control. Right. And Daemon very much can better control this. And for the Green supporters in the fandom that feared Daemon would just be in control and wreck shit, and for the Greens in the story that feared that Daemon would just take control and wreck shit and kill everyone and be, the prince of, what do they call him again? I forgot what they call him, but this evil guy that's running around King's Landing just kind of killing whoever he wants and turning King's Landing into a cesspool. This is kind of evidence. He is taking control away from Rhaenyra immediately, right? And the Greens feared that. They feared that it would actually be Daemon's rule.
So, and it's early indications
are that he would at least try.
Yeah.
How about the pronunciation of Vermax? It's Veermax. Which is not
Veermax. Yeah. Taraxis. I just like listening to Matt Smith talk.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of glossed over this, but before Jace and Luke went to Rhaenyra, they were out fighting on the beach under the tutelage of Stefan Darklin, and Jace in a moment really he wrecks Luke, right? He totally gets him on the ground, then he's screaming at him for messing up, and Luke's like, I'm sorry. It really goes to show the difference between the two personalities. It reminded me of the way that Kristen Cole was teaching them to fight in the yard.
Yeah.
And you could see that Jace internalizes those early lessons. He's done that before, and he's doing it here. He's internalizing that early lesson, and he is not going to get beat like he got beat by Aegon that one day.
And we haven't seen much of them training since then. And any, I don't think. But I also wonder if, on days after returning from King's Landing, when Aemond took control of that dinner scene through intimidation and violence, essentially. And, Jace stood up for himself. He threw a punch and connected and didn't back down. But I wonder if he looked and is like, oh shit, I have to work harder at this.
Yeah, because Aemon kind of ragdolled him after that. Yeah, he kind of just like pushed him down.
Pushed him over. Like, I got to work harder for this because this is going to be a thing for us in the future somehow.
And Luke, you need to too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why he's coming down on Luke so hard.
Yeah.
So we have the Kingsguard.
Yes, we do.
Daemon takes them out and basically threatens them with Caraxes. Who are you going to be loyal to? And if it's not us, you're getting burninated right now.
Yeah, you have you have three choices. You can swear loyalty and everything will be great. You can not swear loyalty and I'll kill you quickly. Well, my dragon will. Or you can say you're loyal, betray us later, and you'll die screaming.
Which,
some good choices.
If he killed them now with Caraxes' fire, they're definitely going to die screaming.
I feel like they're screaming still involved in that, but
not sure there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Anyway, they both make the right choice miraculously.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. I mean, I feel like they were both probably going to make that choice anyway. It feels like, Damon maybe over the top with these threats. It's like, just ask him first, maybe.
Yeah,
But
you need to take him outside.
Yeah, like I guess it's a nice threat, kind of like Aegon touring the realm with his dragon. Like it's nice for them to see the visual and know what's coming if they do step out of line.
Yeah,
I suppose it makes sense.
I don't necessarily blame Damon for doing it, but the impression I got from these Kingsguard guys is that they're in. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I can't with Caraxes, Matt. I just can't. He looks so damn goofy.
With
I
the
laugh
big long neck.
every time he comes on screen. I laugh. I can't stand him. I know people like him and his design, but it's just not doing it for me.
It is kind of different in the I can't remember if it's one of the post episode things or have you seen any of the documentary episodes on the making of each episode on
Well, I
HBO
watched
Max?
all of the post stuff.
There's additional. There's like 30-minute making of episodes on HBO Max for each episode.
No, I didn't know.
I've only watched the first. I only watched like the first 4, and they're really good. They're really interesting. They go a lot into the special effects and things like that. And one of the writers talks about how Caraxes was meant to have like a deformity or like a physical something that was wrong with him. And that's with the long neck and everything. I don't know what it was. They didn't talk about anything beyond that. She's like, but she brought it up almost like it was like a fact that George R. Martin himself had stated, which I don't remember seeing anywhere. Caraxes has this disability and he looks different, a kind of deformity. But when it makes him even more fearsome when he flies because he almost looks like a flying serpent or something.
Yeah. And there are, in dragon lore, there are those kind of more like long serpenty dragons that exist. It's not, this is a kind of a mix. That's interesting. I'd never heard that before. I'll have to go.
I hadn't either.
Try to find that.
Yeah, and I didn't see it anywhere in text.
Anyway, what is cool about Caraxes is the bond he has with Damon. And so I've called this out before in previous episodes. I don't really get it. Like they seem to just know when to come around the rocks and be intimidating.
The cue.
They're just like, yeah, it's like they have that their mental bond is strong enough that they can almost just talk to each other telepathically or sense their emotions and know when they're needed at least or something.
Correct.
It's interesting. And I think it's a theme in this episode a little bit, the strong bond versus the weak bond or weaker bonds of other dragons and their dragon riders, set up for later in this episode. And I think later in the series, perhaps as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, we saw this happen back when Damon and Otto and Rhaenyra met at Dragonstone the first time, right? We had Caraxes come around.
Yep.
Even when that scene where Damon's fighting in the Stepstones and he takes the arrow, right? And it's Caraxes that screams.
Yep,
right?
correct, yeah.
So, yeah, point well taken. And in this scene, we've got Rhaenyra giving birth, and she's obviously in a lot of pain and suffering. And it showed little bits of Syrax, right? Screaming and kissing and obviously agitated as well.
Yeah. Again, I think I meant to show that strong connection.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if this, if we're going to be seeing a power struggle between Daemon and Jace. Is this an ongoing thing? Do you wonder if they've always kind of had like a little bit of a oldest son and stepdad kind of, not quite a rivalry, but headbutting? We haven't had a very big sample size of what family life is like.
Yeah, I get the question, Matt. I think it's simpler than that. Damon's a bad dad. He's just not. Forget dad. He's not a good person. He's not there for their growth. He's not there for helping them probably even train. He's interested in dragons and dragon lore and violence and
that's it.
Fucking women. I mean, he's in it for himself, and he's probably just a bad dad. I mean, I think we kind of saw it with Rhaena earlier. He connects with Bela a little bit, but I know everybody hates how much I hate Damon, but he sucks. He's a bad person, and I think assuming that maybe there's a little bit of, Jace is finally old enough to be taking responsibility, and Damon maybe resents that or something, and resents that Rhaenyra maybe looks to Jace at times. But it feels simpler than that to me. It's just like Damon treats these kids like he treats everyone.
Yeah.
Shittily.
I pointed out in the dinner scene after the little fight that Damon cowed Jace with just a glance. Remember, he stood in front of Jace and just looked at him, and Jace was like, backed off, and so kind of that rule by fear.
Yeah, I'm not saying
there's inklings of that.
I'm not saying he beats them or anything. I'm not, I'm just that he's absent and not that interested.
Right.
Which can be pretty damaging in its own way.
And maybe relies on fear though when he needs to.
Yes. Yeah.
And when Jace is stepping up, when Jace is finally stepping back up to him,
yeah,
probably doesn't like it very much.
It's an interesting line of question. I think probably my predispositions toward Damon maybe not even think about the question ahead of time, but now that you've asked it, I like it.
Yep. Well, this is a tough one to talk about, but should we talk about this, the birth, Rhaenyra having this baby?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. I mean, I think it's a theme throughout this season, at least, of this show, that birth is hard and dangerous and painful and something that women do and should fear, and something that men take for granted. And we see that laid out right in front of us. Luckily she doesn't die like Laena probably was going to, and like Emma did. But it's brutal in its own way.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on why she refused help and why she was so adamant about doing it herself?
No, I don't. My main thought was just it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think help would have mattered.
You think she knew the child wasn't going to survive?
Yeah, but still,
I got that impression as well.
Maybe if I'm digging for a reason that she refused help, maybe she felt like she had let the baby down, that she hadn't provided it safe passage to life, and that she didn't, that Rhaenyra herself didn't deserve help. Maybe she felt that about herself.
I like that. Well, I don't like it, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, it feels pretty thin,
right?
But I can't really think of a reason. Would be interesting to have a female perspective on that.
It would be, our friends that would be able to speak to this with way more authority than we have, which is zero.
Yep.
I was wondering if she was trying to, she felt like things were spiraling out of control. Her dad died. Her crown's been taken away from her. This is something that she can do.
The illusion of control.
Yeah.
Of this birth, even though it's not going to end the way that she wants.
The book says the child had not been due for another turn of the moon, but the tidings from King's Landing had driven the princess into a black fury, and her rage seemed to bring on the birth, as if the babe inside her were angry too and fighting to get out. You definitely saw her going into a fury. The dragon came out, which was interesting. She told Viserys back when she had Joffrey that she had called the birthing assistant, the midwife, a not nice word. And so you get the impression that maybe that happens when you're having a baby, which I would understand. I can't imagine the types of things I would be saying. But this episode did a really good job of, changing a lot kind of big things, but they did us some nice fan service by keying in on a lot of little details and making sure those made it into the episode, like her yelling, "Get out, get out," which is a very prominent part of the passage in the book.
We've given a lot of credit to Matt Smith and Patty Considine, and maybe not enough to Emma. I mean, this scene from Emma, they just kill
two
it.
birth scenes.
I mean,
this scene was, oh my gosh,
brutal. Just, like I always get, engorged over, tight shots on people's faces dealing with emotion and anguish, and well delivered lines and cadence and things like that. That's what I really like about acting. But the physical component of acting, the real acting part of acting, is really probably the hardest thing to get right and convey.
Mm-hmm.
And Emma does it so well in this scene. Just like the physical pain that's racking her body,
Right.
right? And the need to be in this position to expel this poor fetus. And they just do such a good job in this scene. It's
So good. I watched the episode at least 3 times, everyone, before we talk about it. I couldn't
Yep.
watch this scene the second time. I
yeah,
had to skip it. I mean, when she gets the baby out and that camera shot of the little baby's leg and little toes, feet are my favorite part of a baby. I love their little feet. I just sit and play with their little feet.
don't tell
It
Laris.
was um, not that kind of foot fascination. They're just cute. That was hard. That was hard.
I watched it and I studied it, and this, I don't know if you noticed on your one watch, but this
To
baby has
watch, to watch.
horns
And scales.
and scale and some
You can
scaly
kind of see it on
looking,
kind of little baby's back and shoulders and stuff.
but
You
also
kind of see
like
little scales.
bumps on the head that look almost like horns.
Yeah.
Almost.
I was wondering if that was just kind of like a deformity
Yeah.
from birth. Sometimes that happens with their skulls, but I can see
Yeah.
what you're saying, that it kind of is a little dragony shaped. And
It could have been.
the
It
book,
could have been.
for those that haven't read the book, it talks about when she gave birth that the baby had scales and kind of had a hole where its heart should have been. It was tragically deformed. This one didn't seem like quite as much, but they gave us little hints of what the book
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could graphically show a hole where the heart is,
Yeah.
which feels very much in Fire and Blood like a metaphor for
Mhm.
something. I didn't ever really figure out exactly, like, are they saying Rhaenyra is heartless? I don't think so. Not at this point, but it could be. It could be that that this moment kind of robbed her of her heart, right?
Yeah,
And we'll see that it's
definitely.
a little bit different
Mm-hmm.
as this episode creeps along. But yeah, it's brutal. Yeah.
It's hard. Yep. Fact, they named the child Visenya in the book, for those wondering.
It did.
Then we move on to a funeral.
Yeah, and yeah, in Fire and Blood, the coronation of Aegon itself and the childbirth failure push Rhaenyra to immediate action. Right? It's a difference from what you see in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
It hardens her heart immediately, and in this burial scene, what you still have, I think, is a grieving, not angry Rhaenyra, which
For
is
sure.
nice. It's a good
Yep.
change.
I liked it.
I like it.
It fits. Mm-hmm.
In Fire and Blood, they stole my crown and murdered my daughter, and they shall answer for it. Right. And
Right.
so it's an interesting change that she's doing more grieving, more thoughtful processing over all of this, which I think would be absolutely normal. I think it's a good change.
There's some lovely moments there. Damon standing next to her, and he kind of gives her this look. He like turns and looks at her, almost like he wants to comfort her or wants to do something, but he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Some lovely moments.
And, we saw that you mentioned that scene with Rhaenys and the Silent Sisters preparing the body of Aemon. And we see it also, I think, with Viserys in last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alicent coming up to the body afterward and having a moment. Rhaenyra is doing the prepping of the infant's body and the wrapping of it, and the Silent Sisters are in the back watching. So it's a little bit more of a personal touch.
Right. It was hard, but I thought it was nice in its way. It was nice.
It's for a terrible thing. It was as nice as a terrible thing can be.
Right. So they're at this funeral.
It's not natural for a parent to outlive their children, as the king of Rohan says.
Yep. So they're at this funeral, and a member of the Kingsguard approaches. And Stefan Darklin and Laurent Marbrand draw their swords, right? Come no further. And he's like, don't worry, guys, it's cool. And they're like, oh, okay. And they put their swords back. Like,
I trust you.
I would have been like, okay, well, take out your sword first, Eric. Like,
Yeah.
And I mean, you seem fine, but
I mean no harm.
we got to do this a certain way, buddy. There's protocols to follow here.
Which is exactly what someone who meant harm would say.
Right. But of course, this is where we get a little bit of a change, and I liked the change. In the book, it is Stefan Darklin who escapes to Dragonstone, and he brings along Viserys' crown. In the show, they made it look like Stefan Darklin was already kind of assigned to protect Rhaenyra at Dragonstone. He was already there along with Marbrand, and it was Eric Cargill who, as he's leaving, brings the crown with him. I liked it. Worked for me.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a change. So she's got 3 Kingsguard here. I think in the book she's only got 2. When Darklin makes it, but I'm not sure. I'm not certain about that. But
it is. It's just the 2 of them.
Yeah.
And Eric swears vows to Rhaenyra. I looked it up, and we don't have like a recorded, written down like we do the Night's Watch vows of the vows the Kingsguard take, but many of them are similar, all in some parts word for word, to the Night's Watch vows, which I thought was fascinating. That I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. That's taken straight from the old Night's Watch.
I noticed that one.
And then others are kind of similar-ish, but then you get into some guard her secrets, obey her commands, ride at her side, defend her name and her honor. Yeah.
It was nice to hear it. It was a nice little scene. It didn't move a huge emotional needle for me, but it was kind of nice to hear those vows that we haven't heard before. And you wonder why they didn't make the other 2 guys swear that way, but okay.
Yeah, while we're at it, maybe they already did.
Maybe they did. Maybe they can't show everything. They don't show them pooping and peeing either, Matt. They do those things.
They do?
I'm sure they do. I hope they do.
Gross.
My main thought with the crown is I'm glad all these people have the same size head.
Everything seems to work out, doesn't it?
Everything seems to just fit okay.
I went to get my wedding ring resized, and turns out you can't resize tungsten. So,
oh really?
I'm just out of luck. Yeah, I actually got one of those cool like rubbery rings.
Oh, nice.
Sort of, and I actually quite like it. Yeah.
My ring is not tungsten. I can't remember what it is now. I've forgotten the name of the metal, but it was like $60. So if it ever doesn't fit, I'll just get a new one.
Right. Yep.
That was a sidebar.
Yep. My bad.
So they all kneel. They all kneel. It's a nice
impromptu crowning. Let's just do this thing. Yeah.
They all kneel, except Rhaenys, who kneels to no one. And I love it. Like, I thought it was very cool. She's so politically savvy. She's like, this isn't my place to kneel. My family hasn't declared for this. But interesting to note that Rhaena and Baela did kneel. It's their mother. So
stepmom.
It's their stepmom.
/ aunt. Right?
I think.
Yeah, because Laenor's their uncle. So. But their dad is her uncle.
Dad is her uncle. So
that would make them
cousins.
Cousins too?
Yeah.
Cousins. Yeah. Yep.
It's Targaryen family madness. Anything else on the crowning?
Slightly different from the book in that they'd held kind of a hasty coronation the day after Stefan Darklin arrived. Here's just a tiny bit different, but it was still done after the crown arrived. But this was very like impromptu, like they weren't planning on this.
Yeah.
And the crown's here, and Daemon takes matters into his own hands and just says,
just do it.
Well, we've got a crown, we've got you, we've got people around.
Here it is.
Man, that roller coaster of emotions, though. Going from finding out your dad has died to delivering your own stillborn child to then, I was going to say burying that child, but, going through the funeral process for that child and then being crowned queen.
Yeah.
All and in a day's work.
And then going straight into earning that with a council session. I just almost walked straight from there into the room, right, to go start planning.
Let's get started. But
So
just as we're wrapping that up, I love what you said about Rhaenys too, that this isn't her place to kneel yet. But I also think, we talked about last episode, I posited that she was kind of feeling Alicent out, to see if it was someone she could support. I think with anything, Rhaenys is looking for someone to believe in or something to believe in. There's a song called Give Me Something to Believe In. And that was running through my head the whole time. Rhaenys is looking for something to believe in, and she's still unsure about Rhaenyra.
you need
But
the
she's going to get
poison
there.
version. Give me something to believe in.
Oh, no, this was the New Respects
I don't know,
sibling band out of Nashville.
From when?
Recent. Yeah.
Okay.
Last
So what you're saying
6,
is
7
Poison
years.
did it first.
Sure. But New Respects did it better.
Oh, you haven't even heard it.
I haven't. Nope. Talking out my butt.
And I haven't heard yours either.
Okay. Well, look at us. Council session. This wouldn't be a House of Dragon without a council session.
At least one.
I'd want to go back. Has there been at least one council session in every single episode? I can't think of one where there wasn't.
Yeah, I don't want to waste everyone's time while we sit here and think, but probably not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's probably been one in every one.
I think there's at least one in every single one.
And here we get the table in its final form in this council session, with the fire underneath and illuminating from below.
So cool.
And the fandom is asking the right questions on Twitter. Why didn't Stannis do this? Is he just so bland that he's like, forget the fire. We can.
It's too much work. Yeah. These tables will definitely be made and sold by somebody, and they'll be like $2,000 and money well spent.
I bet more than that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I'm just throwing a
depends on how intricate they get, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
I'm horny for the table. I want one.
They're very cool. At first I was like, I want more detail about the different lands and everything and houses. And then I realized Aegon made it before there were all these, the place changed a lot. So I liked it.
What to say about this? I mean, they're kind of going through what they've got going for them. A lot of that's straight out of Fire and Blood, the number of troops and soldiers and stuff they have in Dragonstone. Mm-hmm. The houses that are already in support, the houses that should support them, like Aaron, Stark, and Baratheon that don't yet. Tully needs to be convinced. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. It's very just kind of strategic. What do we need to do next?
Fill Rhaenyra in, yeah. It's interesting because they do kind of have a little bit of awkwardness of like when she's walking in with the guard and she kind of like has to stop them and she's like, okay, you've come far enough. Like she does that little thing where she like stops them and then she goes forward to the table.
She gets wine, right? Which is like Rand gives her some wine.
She's like, thank you. Okay. This is new for everybody, which is interesting. Even down to the guards on Dragonstone, they're not used to guarding a queen, so it does have kind of like this awkward stuttering start kind of feel. And I like that. I like that she invites Baela and Rhaena to participate in the council. I don't know that they added much. In fact, they didn't say a word, but the fact that she invited them, goes for a much more diplomatic approach than like the backdoorsy scheming of the Greens.
She's thrown in backdoorsy.
We can't let an episode pass. House of the Dragon has to do council, and we have to mention backdoors or reach arounds or something like that.
It just wouldn't be us if we didn't.
Under her, a woman will have her say, is what I wrote down. Will have a say, and maybe preparing them to lead a place like Driftmark.
It's true. Yeah, you'd like to see. It's one of the weaknesses of Fire and Blood is you don't get fleshed out details of what these characters really do. I hope we get to see Rhaena and Baela do more in this show than what we see in Fire and Blood.
Yeah.
We do get the key piece of talk of men is moot, which Celticar says, indicating that dragons are the way to go. But there's some spirited conversation about that too. Rhaenyra says none of our dragons have been to war, but I think other than Caraxes, I don't think any of them.
Caraxes have, yeah.
And Sea Smoke, but he's doesn't have a rider. But none of the dragons really have been to war other than, I guess Vhagar has. But
Melees.
I don't
It's
think
fought,
so.
but not
I
like,
don't.
yeah.
I don't think so. I mean,
I'd have to look back at that history on that one. Yeah.
they haven't had war since Jaehaerys really took over. I mean, not real war. There were some things
Right.
down there and some Dornish stuff,
Skirmish things. Yeah.
the Vulture King
Mhm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it feels like none of them are very experienced.
Yep.
But they come up with math that, or I think it's Damon comes up with the math that they have 13 dragons and the Greens have 4.
Mhm. Yeah.
They left out the young dragons of Helena and Aegon's kids, which probably don't exist in this version because they're
Yeah.
younger.
But they call out the 3 adult dragons, but he says in total they have 4, which to me means Tessarion, which to me is confirmation that we will get
Yeah,
the
they've
3rd son.
they've added him now to the family tree, and it's official. He's gonna be.
Oh, like on HBO or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they could have just thrown his name around once or twice.
Yeah. You're like our other son who's in Old Town.
Yeah.
Says hi.
Yeah. Darren's studying really well. He's doing a good job.
Yeah. We got a letter from him today. Yeah. That would be nice.
And then Damon is really eager, so he wants to make this happen.
Very hasty.
In Fire and Blood, he's a little more cautious. He doesn't want to use the dragons in combat.
So different, right?
Yeah. Thinks that there's better, smarter ways to use dragons. But he's
Damon
ready to go to Harrenhal right now.
Yeah, Book Damon says we must fight this war with words before we go to battle, which is exactly the opposite of this Damon. Well, he does recognize the need to get House Tully and everything.
Yep.
But Homeboy's ready to fight.
Before the fucking moon turns, he says they can basically have the Greens on the ropes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, forget about the fact that we got to find riders for these other dragons and all that.
Yeah.
We got this.
It takes no time to train to become a dragon rider, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then, like I mentioned before, Rhaenyra is giving him these looks throughout, finding out that he's made decisions. Was it Celtigar who's like, or is it the Maester that says like, oh, Damon's already commanded me to send ravens to this. And Damon kind of looks at him like,
just ixnay on the Ravens, Ray. Yeah.
Rhaenyra gives him like, okay, but I'm the queen.
Yeah.
You see a budding power struggle already. And I'm glad that she's willing to fight it. She's not going to be a puppet ruler.
No, she's not. Rhaenyra is strong. I mean, I've had some negative things to say about her, but Rhaenyra is strong. She's smart and she's capable and she's a good leader of people. She cares about people. There's a lot to really like about Rhaenyra.
I agree. So what do you think of this support, outward support that we see from Damon? Like, he's the one that crowns her. It's like his idea. He picks up the crown and like walks over to her, and it's almost like Rhaenyra's like, oh, are we doing this? Okay, we're and then he's the one that announces her when she comes into the room. Rhaenyra Targaryen, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, Andals, Rhoynar, First Men, all that stuff. So what am I trying to ask here? Is it outward support? Is it true support? Is it him like being content? Like, is it like what is the word I'm trying to look for? Where he's trying to be like behind the scenes ruling and is okay supporting her out front, but he's trying to like manipulate things from the
I think
from behind the curtain.
I mean, I certainly don't know the answer to this question, but my opinions fall somewhere around where you're falling, and you give a few things there. My opinion is Damon is 80%. Let's fucking go. Let's go. Crown plans. Go. And then the other 20% is like, yeah, I need to actually show support so everyone sees that we're a unified front and that's an image that they'll follow, right?
Yeah.
And that's important to the brand, right? But it doesn't. You got it. It's going to be pulling teeth to get me to say a positive thing about Damon. It's just the way it's going to be. I don't think he's really doing it out of any sort of goodness in his heart to be supportive of
or loyalty. Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah, I agree. Just finally for me, I do like I said, they give us, it's like, we know the show writers, like, we know we're changing a lot here. So we're going to give you like these little tiny details that are exactly from the book, just to, just to maybe assuage your discomfort a little bit. Like,
It didn't work.
no, didn't for you.
Eh,
There were lines that were lifted almost exactly from the book, especially in
lots of
this
them.
scene. Damon says, as an instrument of conquest, however, our army leaves something to be desired. That's almost word for word from the book. We need a place where they can gather a toehold on the mainland large enough to house a sizable host. Talking about Harrenhal, that's almost exactly from the book. Even down to the details, 30 knights, 100 crossbowmen, 300 men at arms. That's exactly the figure given in the book.
Yep.
So I think it helps us as watchers to know that they paid such close attention. And these are details that they could easily just leave out or change or not mention at all. But they gave them to us, and I'll give props for that. I liked that.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
One change, it's a green dragon.
What's a green dragon?
So jumping to the end of the scene here. Marbrand comes in and says there's a boat approaching, flying the colors of the Targaryen flag with a green dragon rather than red, right?
Or gold.
In Fire and Blood, it's gold, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It appears, this is the only thing we get, that the evidence that we get of it, that maybe the showrunners are changing it to a green dragon, which, if you think about it, kind of makes a little bit of sense. But
yeah, so usually it's a red dragon on black, right? And I think, does it then, maybe we'll save this for the prediction portion, but is Rhaenyra going to be a black dragon on red, and then the victor will be using the red dragon on black?
Who knows? It's up for grabs, maybe.
Up for grabs. Yeah, so that boat arrives, signaling Otto has arrived to offer terms. Didn't learn the first time, I guess. It's the same wall they came to last time, same spot. Like, she literally did this to you with the dragon trick where she flies around the back. Like, literally did this 6 episodes ago or whenever it was. It did make me think, though, that, he probably didn't have a whole lot of choice. This long wall is a good defense mechanism.
Right.
If they don't want to use that long wall, they've got to like climb across the rocky shoals below and stuff. It's difficult to traverse with an army or a party that wants to come conquer. So kind of a good defense mechanism. I like it.
Absolutely.
Well designed.
And I like that you see Daemon pacing. I thought that was an interesting detail. We talked before about how Matt Smith said Daemon's a leaner, right?
Yeah.
He always gives this air of just like kind of relaxing. In this one, he's like a caged animal almost waiting for Otto to come up to him. He's walking back and forth along that wall. He wants this fight so bad.
Really bad.
Wants this so bad.
Really badly. He's been aching for this for a long time. He and Otto have never gotten along. And I'm surprised he lasts as long as he does with his sword in his sheath.
Yeah.
So they spend this time, kind of going back and forth about who the rightful ruler is. Otto does a good job of explaining why people believe Aegon is the rightful king, why he's the ruler.
Another line lifted almost exactly from the book, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lists a bunch of houses that are considering terms. Succession changed the day your father sired a son. Sad that that you and he, Rhaenyra and Viserys, were the last to see the truth of it. So he's really coming to offer terms and say there's no hope here. No one sees this like you do, right? But Daemon has one of the best lines in the show that he would rather feed his own sons to the dragons than have them carry shields and cups for their drunken usurper cunt of a king.
Yep.
And those words just drip off Matt Smith's lips like acid. It is so delectable, this burn. I loved hearing it.
Oh yeah. It was great. The terms are word for word as they were in the book almost. Another interesting little add. One big difference is that in the book, it's Grand Maester Orwell who comes to offer these terms. I loved having Otto there. It just made, it gave us that beautiful acid drippy moment of Damon that we wouldn't have gotten had it just been Orwell. So great decision.
I agree. I liked it.
In the book, they forcibly remove Orwell's chain, right? And give it to their Maester Gerardus. I feel like we got a little nod to that by Rhaenyra taking off Otto's hand pin and chucking it away, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then as almost like I don't know whether he's just like, I'll try a different tack or whatever. He has, is it Orwell? He has Orwell bring up the page of the book that Rhaenyra had ripped out when she and Alicent were younger, under the Godswood, which we haven't seen in many episodes. Poor Godswood. And Alicent has apparently kept it as a keepsake of some sort, and it works. I mean, it seems to work. It plays on Rhaenyra's emotions a little bit, and when Daemon is trying to get them to attack and just basically end this farce, Rhaenyra stops them.
Yep.
And we get another moment of Syrax connecting to the user, to the rider, bellowing as, I think Syrax can sense her unease.
I wrote down that same note that Syrax is railing against Daemon in that scene. Like, chill out, dude.
No, you don't.
Chill out. Yep.
I thought better not. You better not.
F around, find out.
Yeah, so it's an interesting scene. In Fire and Blood, I feel like we've had a lot of in Fire and Blood this, in Fire and Blood that, but in Fire and Blood,
I love it. We're a book podcast first, right? We got to talk about these things.
We are indeed. In Fire and Blood, she's kind of already made up her mind that this is not a good idea. This episode is, kind of like the Green episode, spent a lot of time looking for Aegon, this weird goose chase that, frankly, I didn't care too much about. This episode has instead spent the time in a much more heady way, a much more emotional way, to have Rhaenyra deal with the conflict within herself about what the right thing to do is. And she's decided here that she needs to think about this a little bit before saying no to these terms.
Yeah.
On the morrow, they'll have my answer.
Yeah. People spend a lot of time talking about the end of the episode and how, the change that was from the book, potentially. I think this is the biggest change of the book is Rhaenyra's attitude towards the war. She's very upfront. We're going to do this, as you and I have already talked about in the book, in the show. She's going to take some time and do this right.
Yeah. Going back to my prediction, and I said I did it a little bit differently. What I predicted was that Luke's death, spoiler, if you haven't watched the episode, that's happening in a little bit, that Luke's death would trigger her pregnancy and her miscarriage. And then that would be the straw that broke the back and that she'd want to go to war. It is Luke's death that does that. We'll get
that hardens her. Yep.
But it happens well after the miscarriage. And it's very interesting to me that, that the miscarriage doesn't, and the stealing of the throne isn't enough. And I don't hate it. I don't hate that they had her go through this exercise to try to get to this place. We get a very interesting scene coming up next that helps deal with that. It's an interesting change. I didn't hate it like some of the changes.
I didn't hate it either. Actually, I didn't hate it at all. It even goes to, if you wanted to talk about Fire and Blood and justify the change a little bit, it could just be that the people that wrote Fire and Blood maybe weren't there. And so they wanted to cast Rhaenyra in a more villainous light. So they made her as this warmongering, queen wannabe when she actually wasn't.
Perhaps. Yes. The biased narrator or the uninformed narrator. Mushroom should be there.
He was on Dragonstone.
Most of them would not have been, yeah. Although Orwell would have been there for this scene. But anyway. Do you have anything else for the scene on the bridge there? Or do you want to move to the session 2 here?
Yeah, they kind of get to debrief from what just happened, right? And Rhaenyra makes it clear that her duty is to defend the realm, not to cast it headlong into war.
Yeah. Very Stannis-y.
Very true. Yeah.
Right. My duty is to the realm, not the other way around.
And that idea that Daemon says of dragons going to war, the problem with that is everything burns, as she said. When dragons flew to war, everything burned, and she's not interested in ruling over a kingdom of ash and bone.
Yeah. But also great. Just like Alicent in the Council of the Greens, he loved his child. He wouldn't want her killed. And Tyland Lannister says, okay, well, what's your idea?
So what now? So
very similarly, Daemon says, the enemy have declared war. What are you going to, you have to do something. What is your idea? Right? I'm preparing for war because I see that as the only outcome here. What would you like to do instead? Right? And I mean, I hate war too. What is the alternative? I mean, from the stance of the prophecy that she believes so much in, that she thinks is her main priority, is she just going to give it to Aegon II? Is that her? Is that the non-war option, that she's just like, okay, maybe it wasn't meant to be me. I'll share it with him and hope that he can carry it forward. Right. Is that the alternative she's considering?
I think so. I think one thing that this episode kind of in a sidelong way makes clear is that idea perpetuated in the last episode too, that Rhaenyra and Alicent have more in common than what the surface shows us. And as we talked about in I guess it was 2 episodes ago now, during the dinner scene, where we posited that Alicent was ready to let Rhaenyra be queen. That this is Rhaenyra seriously considering, could this work out? If I just lived my life on Dragonstone, Otto came through with the promises that he made and the terms that he made, could this just be okay if it means preventing war?
In accordance with the prophecy being the priority, right?
Yeah. So she's like, when Daemon sasses her, it reminded me of that scene in The Office where Stanley sasses Michael. Did I stutter?
Oh, yeah.
And Michael's like, everybody out. And he makes everybody leave. Clear the room, Rhaenyra says. And you're like,
Stanley should have been
here we go.
Friggin' fired for that.
Sure. Absolutely. Michael Scott's terrible.
He is awful.
We've talked about this.
Yes.
I
can barely watch the show. I've gotten more anxious as I've gotten older. Like, I can't watch the show because of them. It's too much.
I've been watching it with my kids, and it's been fun to watch it with them.
My kids want to watch it really badly.
My twins, yeah.
I'm like, you won't get it. You don't know what it's like to be in an office.
There have been plenty of times where I've got to pause it and be like, okay, let me explain this to
you. Yeah. I imagine that would be the case. So everybody out, like Michael Scott said.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just lay into each other. Why should I declare war? Just because I'm angry? Because it's your duty as queen to crush rebellion. True.
Mm-hmm. True. Also, good question Rhaenyra asks. If Rhaenyra could take the throne without killing the Hightowers, would Daemon still do it? Would he get the throne for her without wanting to kill Hightowers? And he doesn't answer that.
No, he doesn't. No. I'm sure he'd take it, but he'd be pissed off for years about it.
For sure. Well, so I watched this documentary recently on a hockey team called the Danbury Trashers, a minor league hockey team. You heard of them? Great documentary on Netflix about how they were funded by a mobster. I won't go too much into it here, but super fascinating. Look it up on Netflix. But there's one story of this one guy on the team who gets horribly injured by a cheap shot from another player. And his career's almost over because the injury's so bad, but he talks about it almost like he's fueled by revenge to get better and get back into playing shape so that one day he can go back and get revenge on this guy. And finally, a year later, the moment comes, they're playing this guy's team, and he just waits for the right moment when he's reasonably close, and he just attacks the guy, pummels him. The guy's to be taken out on a stretcher. Just, he talks about it like it was the greatest moment of his life, when really it just sounds awful. But this is what Daemon's going through. This is what he's been waiting for. He's just been stewing and waiting for a moment to strike at the Hightowers. And a lot of this, I think, is fueled by hatred.
I think it is. I think you're right. I mean, I think a lot of it deep down for him is this fire that's been smoldering for a long time and now gets some air underneath it, and
He's got an opportunity.
it can rage, right? Also, I think there is a little bit of him that feels like, no, fuck these guys. Targaryens rule here,
Mhm.
right? And we get into
Yeah,
that
not Hightowers.
after the Song of Ice and Fire bit. We get into some of that, and we'll go a little bit deeper. Maybe we should do the Song of Ice and Fire bit now. I mean,
Yeah, do it.
So
Go.
So Rhaenyra basically says, "Well, yeah, it's my duty to crush rebellions, but
Because of the prophecy, like,
but the prophecy is more important than my duty to crush rebellions."
the prophecy that you obviously know about.
Yeah, and I think so she tells him, the Song of Ice and Fire, you dummy, right? You know about that,
right? Yeah, that whole thing.
Viserys told me all about it when he named me heir, and he chokes her.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I think we all suspected that Daemon didn't know about the prophecy. We talked about it in our previous episodes, when it was like, is Daemon really the heir? Did Viserys ever really consider him the heir? Daemon thought he was the heir, but did Viserys ever share this with him? And what if Viserys had been taken out by a fall down the stairs and nobody knew the prophecy? Like, we talked about all those things, but Daemon doesn't know shit, and we kind of figured he probably didn't. And my biggest problem with this is that it feels like ridiculous storytelling to me. That Rhaenyra. So imagine you're Rhaenyra, and the way we're expected to read this scene is that she expected him to know this prophecy. She thought he'd know all about it, right? So imagine you've had this secret for so long that you couldn't really talk to anybody about, and now you've married this person that you think knows about it, and in 7 years you never talked about it. She keeps in these, it's infuriating to me, Matt, in these moments that we get to see after time jump and time jump and time jump, where she keeps stressing, oh no, well, the prophecy is the most important thing. Are we expected to believe that she only says that or only thinks about that every 7 years or every 3 years or whatever? It should be something that's driving her actions like all the time. You'd think it'd be like me having soccer thoughts about how I would have done this better. She should be thinking like, what's happening in the North. Maybe we should, Daemon, do you think since this thing's going to happen in the North, we should go spend some time up there and make allies and make sure that, we're all on the same page, and let's take a trip up there on our dragons and smooth things over with them and make sure we're all good. They never do anything about the damn prophecy ever to make sure that it will be okay. And it's hard for me to believe that she has a confidant in Daemon that supposedly knows this thing. It wouldn't be letting the cat out of the bag to talk to him about it. And she doesn't ever. It's shocking to me, and I feel like it's really bad storytelling.
I wouldn't say it's really bad storytelling.
Exceptionally bad.
I get the we've talked about before about you've known about this for this long and you haven't said anything until now. I think we've had 3 or 4 instances over the course of the season where we're like, you waited this long to say something.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, this is the scene they're showing, and so for the audience's sake, they have to say it now, right? Yeah, it's interesting that this never come up before. If she just assumed that he knew, you would think that it would come up in conversation or something. We've also seen from Rhaenyra that she's kind of gotten lax. We've talked about it before on the whole becoming queen thing. She's maybe taken for granted the time that she needs to put into preparing, and just dad's always been alive and he's always been the king and I've got time, right? So I'm just going to settle into family life on Dragonstone and not think very much about my responsibilities. But now the situation's here, and so now I've got to think about all these things. Oh crap, like you said, she wasn't prepared for it. I got to think about this prophecy. I got to think about this. I got to think about this. I got to think about this. When it's really something she should have been, like you said, gradually preparing for years.
Maybe I'm just built different, Matt, but if I were like in charge of making sure the whole world didn't burn down on my watch, I'd be thinking about it all the time. I'd be worrying about it. I'd be
stressing.
I'd be stressed out, right? And maybe people aren't built that way. It's just me, but It's hard for
When
me to
things
believe
seem
she wouldn't be.
a long way off. My dad didn't do much about it. So,
What do you mean?
well, that's what she's thinking. Like, well,
Oh,
dad didn't seem to worry about it too much.
Yeah, right.
No, not my father.
Yeah. It's like he knows about this.
He knew about the Song of Ice and Fire too.
Anyway, so regardless whether or not I think it's bad storytelling, we get Damon's reaction, which is shockingly violent again.
Yeah.
He chokes her really aggressively, like it's bad.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
Yep. Domestic violence.
I think, trying to climb in Damon's head, not going to justify what he did.
Not justify.
At
climb
all.
into his head.
I think, maybe he's feeling initially some betrayal that he wasn't given the secret by his brother.
He didn't know about it. Agreed.
He was never considered the heir, really. Rhaenyra is getting kind of the opposite feeling. I was always the heir. I didn't realize that Viserys thought of me that way. Damon's getting the opposite end of that stick, right? That, he was never trusted by his brother. And that in combination with Viserys' death, I think is really doing a number on him. And he just blows up and reacts.
Mm-hmm.
But in the middle of the choke, though, I think he kind of lands on his message. None of that shit matters. Forget the dreams. You need to be a queen of action and violence. Targaryens are built on dragons. It reminded me of the Dany passage, dragons plant no trees bit, the fire and blood, Daenerys told the swaying grass. Dragons don't plant trees. Dragons don't create, they don't build, they destroy. That's Damon's message here, and he shouldn't have choked her for sure.
Yep.
That's what he's trying to get her to see.
I think so too. Yep. What he viewed as Viserys' biggest weakness was the dreams and he calls them omens and portents. Daemon does. Yeah. And now he's seeing Rhaenyra do it. He's like, no, that's not how things work.
You better not.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is another moment. Go ahead.
No. I was going to move on to something a little different.
Okay, well, I was just going to point out this is another moment of a similarity between Alicent and Rhaenyra that I think we're meant to see. That abuse continues even among these women, even upon these women, I should say, who are, apparently in such high standing. Like, Rhaenyra's the queen. Daemon's not the king.
Yeah.
Alicent is the dowager queen. Larys Clubfoot is a lord confessor. Yet they still are able to abuse these women. And they're still finding themselves in that room looking for a window.
And it makes you wonder just how bad all the other women have it, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Damon's statement there about what dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did, right? Which is kind of, I meant to go rewatch the bonfire scene in, I think it's the second of his name episode.
Mm-hmm.
But Viserys says almost the exact same thing. What is the power of dragon against the power of a prophecy? Of essentially, he's implying of being able to see the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he and Daemon are just total opposites on this.
Right.
Get the prophecy stuff. And Viserys is like, it's all prophecy stuff, right?
Yeah, when probably the happy medium is prophecy's good, but it requires action too.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. This prophecy means nothing if Rhaenyra is not going to try to unite the kingdom.
And maybe we'll see.
And do something about it.
That middle path from Rhaenyra, we'll see.
Yep. I think she's thinking about it more because she's finally been forced to confront it. Because her dad died. Yep. Then we get a reacquainting, 6 years in the making?
Yeah. Yeah, so Corlys has lived. He's back. I think they're actually on Dragonstone. Earlier in the episode, they said he was sailing to Dragonstone.
I think they are too.
Mm-hmm. They didn't go to Driftmark and then come back. They just went to Dragonstone.
Took him straight there.
He tries to make a little joke as he awakes about punishing her for falling asleep on her watch.
And Rhaenys, as we see she's wont to do, is like, nope, I've got a lot of things I've wanted to say to you for the past 6 years, and we're jumping right into it.
That joke is like when you bring your partner a gift or flowers or give them a nice compliment when you've done something wrong, right? Like he left for 6 years, and I love that they're dealing with that because
Yep.
Rhaenys has felt abandoned.
Yep.
He says, I had no other place to turn, implying that he had to go to the Stepstones.
Oh, huge eye roll. Huge.
I lost everything.
Oh, huge eye roll.
And you hate that Rhaenys has to even say it. Dickhead, we lost.
Dude.
We're in this together.
Yeah.
All in this together. It's High School Musical. That's a local one.
It is. Yep. Yep. We drive past that high school to get to one of the local hockey rinks all the time.
My sister-in-law teaches at that high school.
No way.
Does indeed.
No.
Taught there while it was filmed.
Do children sing in the cafeteria? Just break out into choreographed dance numbers?
Not any more than in any normal cafeteria.
Okay. All right.
Meaning the drama club probably does.
Yeah, it happens.
I don't know. This scene is interesting. I mean, it kind of paints this relationship a little bit differently than I thought of it or had been thinking of it. That it's not as strong as it seemed. And we've seen a few of those scenes, right? Where
for sure.
We see that they disagree about some things. But very much it doesn't seem like as strong a relationship as we thought it was.
I agree. And at the same time, you notice these little things of almost like they're just comfortable with each other. They're to that point where there's just a deep-rooted caring for each other, even acknowledging they're not on the same page. She's sitting there giving him the business while she's dabbing his head, and not like doing it in a mean way either, like softly dabbing his head and washing his hands even as she's giving him the business.
Yep. You never get the sense that either one of them is about to choke the other one.
Right.
If we want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Like not to make light
of
the domestic violence from the last scene, but like it's a amenable discordance. Right?
Yeah.
They're going to work through this. They need to come to some terms and it's going to be okay. But they're butting heads a little bit.
Right. Yeah. You've heard it said sometimes of divorce is not an option. And couples decide that divorce is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like these two. They're still caring. Mm-hmm.
She lets him know that Viserys is not the only death, that his brother Vaemond has died. And Corlys and gives him the details that he was trying to claim your spot, basically, assuming you were going to die, and claimed that the strong bastards are indeed bastards, which everyone can see and knows.
Yep.
By the way, the same position Rhaenys had about them, like what she wanted the throne to go through the Baela and Rhaena, right? But Corlys very quickly comes to, you get the sense maybe that this entire time he's been sick, he's really been reflecting on
absolutely
choices he's made. And
absolutely.
the Vaemond thing is just the spur he needs to say, like, the line is, heedless ambition has always been a Valerian weakness.
Mm-hmm. I reached too far and for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And so he's officially giving up his pursuit of the Iron Throne. Let's declare for no one and just go hide away on our little island.
Actually, Corlys, kind of changed my mind about things.
Yep.
I've been doing some thinking too. And I'm digging Rhaenyra.
Yeah, so she makes the point, first of all, that they're grandchildren. If, I don't know whether you believe like the blood or the name or whatever, Jace, Luke, and Joff aren't safe. They're in this. And so we need to be in this too for them, right?
Which, sidebar, I like. I put that as a note that I like. Rhaenys knows they're not her blood. I think Corlys knows too.
Yep.
They still want to protect them. Those three boys, she calls them. She loves them. They're grandkids to her, whether they're blood or not. And I really like that.
I think so too. And then her other reason is that, I think, like you said earlier, that Rhaenys maybe was looking for somebody to believe in. She's seen in these last couple scenes that Rhaenyra is standing up to people. She's taking control. She doesn't want to do the senseless war acts that everyone is prompting her to do. And she's being careful and showing restraint And
Rhaenyra is the only one who's demonstrated restraint, she says.
yeah.
Like
So,
Rhaenys herself did in the Dragon Pit, by the way.
so I mean, you wonder if Rhaenys hadn't been in those councils and seen her speak that way, if she would have given this speech to Corlys or not.
Yeah,
Because this is
absolutely.
a big reason why they're throwing their support behind her.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, man. In fact, when Rhaenyra says everybody out, basically, Rhaenys walks by and she gives her that little smile. And to me, that was the moment where she realized, okay, Rhaenyra is not going to be cowed by Daemon.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to stand up for herself. And Rhaenys gives her that little Rhaenys sly smile of, go get him, girl. You get it,
She was
girl.
also the last one to leave, and it almost felt like she wasn't gonna. Like she wanted to see this. Like, I want to see this.
She closed the
Right?
door behind her and is instantly
Yeah,
like ear up to it.
Someone give me a glass.
Get it, girl. Get it, girl.
So we go right into Council Session 3 from this scene,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially Corlys coming in and being announced, and he plays at it a little bit, but basically
He's testing her mettle too. He's trying to see for himself how she'll respond to, some blowback or some pushback about things. And so he does a little bit.
Yeah. Hope is a fool's ally, the fool's ally, he says, because she's talking about the hopes of getting more allies in some of these other Stark and Tullian, Baratheon. She talks about not acting right away, and she says, taking caution does not mean standing fast, right? So yeah, I think you're right. He's feeling her out, but in the end,
she sasses him a bit, and he's like, okay, I like that.
Yeah, she says, these houses swore to me, and he goes, as did House Hightower, if I remember. And she says, so did you, dude.
As did you. And he does a little, all right,
okay, fine. Yep. And then he declares, and oh, by the way, since I'm declaring, I'll also share with you, yeah, I almost died, and yeah, I've been gone 6 years, and I got a little bit whipped for that from my wife last scene, but we now have a total blockade of the shipping lanes, which is huge.
That is big freaking deal.
For those that don't read the books, I mean, this is harped on a lot in A Song of Ice and Fire and in Fire and Blood about how important the control of Blackwater Bay is, but also of the Gullet and the Stepstones themselves, and controlling those shipping lanes. They can kind of starve the city out, right? If they do it right. And they got to get some control on land too, but it's a huge step.
Yep.
It's very important.
Yeah. And that's, I've talked about Rhaenys' smiles. It's the first like real non-sly smile you get from Rhaenys after Corlys declares. Like, it's almost like, yes, I'm in this. Corlys even gives her credit in kind of his own Corlys-y way of not giving her too much credit. But Rhaenyra says, you honor me, Lord Corlys. And he's like, yeah, I'm a big deal. But then he kind of looks past Rhaenyra at Rhaenys and kind of gives like a little like eyebrow thing. And then Rhaenyra turns to Rhaenys and it's like, you too.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Before she didn't want to start the war, Rhaenys I'm talking about. But now she's like, I'll go on patrolling duty. I'm in this now. Yep.
Yeah, she's going to go patrol the Gullet and make sure that no ships get through, which is nice. Yeah, there's a few little things that happen before we get too deep in the scene. The cousins, Baela, Rhaena, Jace, and Luke, seem very fond of each other.
My note was, Baela freaking loves Jace. I bet they totally sneak off and make out together.
I am asking if they're doing it. I wonder. Rhaena gives little Luke a look.
Rhaena's totally into Luke.
Yes. Like, I think they're really into each other. More importantly than that, of course, is like, I said it before, but like, let's give Baela and Rhaena something more to do than walk here, stand there, smile. Let's throw these actresses and these characters a bone, please.
I paid attention to it on my third watch, and I think the only line that either of them has is when Rhaena offers wine.
Yeah.
I don't think they say a single word otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, the look Baela gives Jace is like, that's my man. my man.
Yeah.
And the look that Reyna gives Luke is kind of like butterfliesy, like he's so cute. Like, yeah. And the boys for their part give them looks too, like,
yeah.
Dang, she fine.
I mean, I'm probably reading too much into it. I like a good romance as much as the next guy.
And Corliss gives them the little look too, like, oh, is this a thing? Oh, so that's a thing? Like my nieces and nephews, or my granddaughters and grandsons. Yeah.
Bela also looks like she's got a little bit of pride with
totally
when Jace proposes this idea.
Yep. That's what I mean. Like, that's my man.
Yeah, right. So Jace proposes, so that they're about to send ravens to all these people that they want to get support from, because if they're going to close off the shipping lanes, they also need troops to surround, and they don't have enough people, enough allies to do that, right? So they're going to send off ravens to go send messages to Baratheon, Tully, Stark, Aaron, right? And Jace says, just like in Fire and Blood, that
we should bear those messages.
We should bear those messages. Dragons are more convincing, right? And faster too, but the more convincing is the interesting part. He thinks sending a prince on a dragon will carry a lot more weight than a raven, and he's right, and everyone agrees.
Yeah. In the book, his brother Lucerys agreed, it says, insisting that he and Jace were men or near enough to make no matter. In the show, it gives the impression, at least to this viewer, that Luke was like,
I didn't notice.
You definitely saw the fear. You didn't see outright like, no, we're not doing that. But this actor who plays Luke, I don't know the actor's name, and I should. He does a great job of transmitting that uncertainty. Yeah. I think, in this next scene with Rhaenyra and the two boys, he does it really well too. Great little actor.
Now in Fire and Blood, I think they're like 14 and 15 in this scene. In House of the Dragon, I get the sense they're more like 17, 19.
Ooh, they say Luke, she says you're 14 years old at the beginning.
In this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
She's like, you're 14, dude. Yeah.
But I'm wrong.
But Jace looks like a good couple years older than him, I thought. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cregan like Megan?
Yeah, Cregan.
Been saying Cregan my whole life.
I feel like everybody's pronounced it Cregan. If anyone else has pronounced it Cregan, please let us know.
Probably people named Megan.
It makes sense.
We have a blood rider named Megan. We should ask.
We should ask Megan. Megan, did you pronounce it Cregan?
Remind them of the oaths they swore and the cost of breaking them, Rhaenyra says about these messages they're going to deliver.
I think that's a great statement to make. But then you don't do it.
Well, I feel like it's a little maybe I don't know what they wrote on the messages, right? But they each need their own little touch, probably, right?
Right.
And watching this upcoming scene of Luke at Storm's End, that message needed a different touch.
Yeah.
And you should know your potential allies and know what touch is needed. It sounded sexual. I didn't mean it to be. But in Boros's case, frankly, that might have been the touch that was needed, right? Like he needed some sort of compensation of, well, anyway, we'll get to that.
It's almost like, we'll wait till we get there. It was a terrible idea.
Yeah. It sounds like a good idea, send these boys on these dragons. But maybe spend more time crafting the messages. Anything else in this scene here?
No.
So we get this is where House of the Dragon shines to me, is in these little moments that don't exist in Fire and Blood at all, that are just scenery that give us more insight into these characters and make us care about them more.
Correct.
The scene where Rhaenyra is sending her sons off to do these errands, right?
Yeah, the book does talk about making the boys swear solemn oaths upon a copy of the seven-pointed star. But like you're saying, it breathes life into those moments and makes you care about them. To me, Jace and Luke of the books are just two boys. They're almost could be interchangeable even in their personalities, like I'm saying.
They're kettle blacks.
And yeah, kind of. They're sweethearts, though. Kettlebacks are not sweethearts.
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Jace and Luke and Joffrey, but you're right. They don't get fleshed out much at all, and so having a tender spot for them is kind of like having a tender spot for Rickon. There's not a lot there, you know. Like you can have one if you want, but like you weren't given a whole lot.
You're a father of 2 boys yourself, and you just
Indeed. So the case given for Luke, who's going to Storm's End, is that there's Baratheon blood from your grandmother Rhaenys. It's a short flight. It'll be easy on you. Don't worry about it. Boros is eternally proud. We'll be honored to host a prince and a dragon. And I expect you to receive a warm welcome.
I feel, is she coddling him? Is she actually not? She's trying to calm him down and, steal him a little bit. But I wonder if she's doing him a disservice by painting this rosy picture.
I think she believes the picture. I think it's part of her entitlement. I think she believes that these people actually feel this way about her.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They bent the knee. They should feel that they owe me. She feels entitled to that, and she feels that they'll behave in this way. I don't think she's. I mean, she said it in the bigger council too, right? About reminding them of the oath and everything.
So you say she's not purposefully like trying to like calm him down by telling him all this easy stuff, that there's actually some conviction behind it. And I
don't think she'd bother telling him if she weren't trying to do that. I think she is trying to calm him down, but I also think she believes what she's saying.
Yeah. I like that. It's doing him a disservice, but yep.
But I mean, to your point, the only thing she tells Jace is, Cregan's close to your aids. You guys should get along fine. That's all she has to tell Jace. Luke is worried, so she gives him the whole thing, right? But
she can tell by looking at him and just by knowing her kids. Yeah. Luke's a worrier.
Yep. There's this little moment when she's talking to Luke where it zooms in on her hands.
Yeah.
The pinky. Did you have the note about the pinky?
The pinky.
Yes. Rhaenyra's pinky finger just kind of rubs Luke's hand tenderly. It's just beautiful. Wonderfully done by Emma. The kind of thing that, as an actor, it's like, that's what you're looking for. The director doesn't say like, hey, move your pinky.
That's what I thought. I wonder if that it probably wasn't even a direction. It was something she just did.
Being in the character. She probably didn't plan it. It's just being in the character and doing the motherly thing for this boy your character cares about.
Yeah.
It's wonderfully tender.
Yeah. I love it. I loved them riding off together. The 3 dragons, the boys getting a little ride with grandma, and away they go.
That's right. Veermax heading, kind of skipped over a little bit. Veermax heading north to the Eyrie, and then to Winterfell. Meleys, we assume,
going with
Rhaenys
patrol
the Gullet, and little Luke, of 14 years old apparently, on Arax, going to Storm's End.
Yeah. Then we get a funny little scene.
I like this scene.
We get a funny little scene. Damon's walking through the caves, singing his songs. I asked on Twitter what song he was singing.
It was a hit.
Wrong answers only.
It was a hit tweet, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of interesting responses on there. Baby Shark, I think, was one of them. Or 2 of them.
You got a bunch of interesting responses.
We got a lot of Rick Astley. Never Gonna Give You Up. A lot of that one.
Yep, Never Gonna Give You Up.
But he encounters a dragon who is not named in the episode, but who everyone has just kind of come to know is Vermithor, which was King Jaehaerys' dragon.
Yeah, and I believe Vermithor is perhaps the 2nd or 3rd biggest dragon alive at this point. The cannibal, which is not one I think that's been mentioned. Maybe did they refer to wild dragons? They might have.
They referred to the 3 that were wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damon did
apparently quite big, maybe bigger than Vermithor. But Vermithor's a beast, man. He's big.
Yeah. The book describes him as hoary, Hoary. And we may have talked about it in the episode, like, what does that even mean? And I don't know how to describe it, but I know it when I see it. And what I saw was a hoary dragon. Like,
hoary old Vermithor.
If I was just to like describe in a picture.
Yeah.
Vermithor does it. He looked hoary to me.
Yeah. And yeah, he did. And I like this scene. It's almost like Vermithor has been awakened, like it's a metaphor or something. And he's ready, right? Like he spews this fire that's maybe the longest thing of fire we've seen, at least that I've seen on this show. Feels like.
Our buddy Joe Magician talked about, he posited that was him holding up his lighter to Damon singing, like in a concert when you fire up your lighter.
That's funny.
Nice ballad.
I didn't see that.
That was Vermithor's lighter moment.
But you do wonder, like, was this
what's going on?
Was this kind of the song that Jay Harris used to sing a lullaby to him, and Damon, because he studies dragon lore, knew that, and so went and sung it and knew that it would have this effect on Vermithor. Cagey dude, Damon, about some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a teaser scene. A teaser scene.
For sure. What are they going to do with him? Who's going to ride him?
Yeah.
I mean, we know in Fire and Blood what happens. I won't talk about it because it's kind of spoilery. But
is Damon going to be Damon and try to take on a second dragon just to say that he could and just defy all the rules?
Matt, it would not stun me.
Right?
I hope not, but it would not stun me.
Right?
Vermithor, just like the close-up on Vhagar, looks animatronic to me. I like the far away shots of the dragons. I think they do wonderful when they're in flight and when we're seeing them from afar and moving and stuff. They look great. But when we get really up and close to them, man, it looks like a Disney ride to me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't think it looks awful, but you definitely notice a difference between like these dragons and other things you see in big budget movies and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Do you have more to say? I agree. It feels like a teaser. There's other dragons on Dragonstone too. Is he maybe going to go find all of them?
Just touch base with all of them.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like a post-credits scene. Like it was weird even just putting it where it was. It feels like something that you'd watch all the credits like in a Marvel movie, and then at the end you'd see that.
Yeah. But I could see that way. Yeah. Very, very much, like a teaser, like you said. Yeah, like this will mean something to you later.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
But they wanted to end on the emotional beat of Rhaenyra finding out the news about Luke, so I get it too.
They did. Should we get to that?
Yeah, we got to get to Storm's End, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've finally seen externally Storm's End, right?
I wasn't blown away, to be honest.
It was fine.
It's fine. The big drum tower.
I expected it to be more squat, right?
Yes.
Did you expect it to be like
way
more
squat,
wide?
It should be built like me. Come on.
Stout.
Like, I mean, we didn't get a really good look at it. No, like from like a good angle,
It was rainy. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But no, I wasn't blown away.
Me neither. Sounds like some people were. I wasn't that much.
Yeah.
I liked this moment from Luke, though, for as unsure he is about himself, he lands that dragon and almost instantly he sees Vhagar in a very dramatic scene. It was like, holy crap.
Yes.
And you see Luke like,
okay.
And he trusts in his role as the messenger, right?
Yes.
And he's like, they're not going to hurt me because I'm just the messenger. I got a job to do. I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It was nice. And, based on all the things we've said about Luke earlier this episode, like we know it took something for him to do that.
Right. He's already not feeling great about this.
Yeah.
And then he sees the biggest living dragon in the world. And
exactly.
He knows who rides that dragon.
Exactly.
And he also knows that he cut that person's eye out.
Yes.
And
it's like, this is going to be a thing, I guess. Okay.
I hate you, Mom. I hate you, Jace.
Another super warm welcome. Nobody gets warm welcomes in this show.
No.
The four guards just kind of stand there looking at him until he approaches with a letter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say about this scene. Hilarious that Boros can't read.
That's from the book.
It's from the book.
Yep.
Yep. It doesn't outright say he can't read, but it kind of infers it.
Yeah.
And also he kind of like, it seems like he resents his maester for the fact that he can't read. He calls him the bloody maester. He doesn't keep him near, and like, I bet.
Well, it's embarrassing too. Like, I was almost just like, no, don't. Yes, you're coming at me with a letter. Just tell me what it says. Like, don't make me like read it, and then we got to talk. Just say it. Just say it. It's very Baratheon of him. Aemon looks great. I thought the popped collar. Mm-hmm. He just looked totally bad.
Looks confident. He looks aggressive. He looks in control.
Mm-hmm. And we're jumping ahead a little bit to him taking off the eye patch. But I was wondering if they'd even do like the stone in the eye thing, or if they'd just always have him be in an eye patch. Yeah, I thought it looked cool.
It did. It did look good. It looked.
The sapphire.
Yeah.
I thought it looked cool. Yeah. He looked good.
So, as we hinted, Rainier has totally misread Boros. He wants something in return, isn't getting it, feels insulted. Not a dog to whistle up at need, he says.
Another line lifted straight from the book.
Yes.
That's verbatim.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And this is a bit of a future of the realm, though, and this is not a spoiler. I mean, look way ahead to, Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
As soon as there's discord in the House of the Dragon, people start kind of
they glom.
They start putting up fights against them, right? And start doing their own thing and start demanding things. And the Dance Dragons is a big part of that, as we'll see.
So you come with empty hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. That's where I'm talking about the disservice. There was no talk of, if they bite back a little bit and you find yourself needing to negotiate, this is as far as I'm willing to go, right? Like, I'll go like you always do when you're preparing for a negotiation. We're really willing to give this much, but try for this much. Do this, do this, do this. Those conversations didn't happen.
If you need some incentive, tell him we'll give him these lands to this river, or tell him, yes, we don't have any heirs right away, but we will. Joffrey isn't, set to marry anyone, and your daughters are a little older, but when he's old enough,
exactly, Joffrey, they know Boros has 4 daughters, and that the marriage things are a common way of sealing alliances. You'd have to think that would be discussed. Oh, Boros might, he might want us to seal this thing with the marriage pact. What are we willing to do there?
Right. Or lands or something. You're right. Have something in the chamber so that it's not just like, here's the letter, come do it, please. These are negotiations. And the benefit of not sending a raven is that you do have someone there to negotiate. So if you're going to send him empowered.
So I'm saying, bad idea, man. It seemed like a good idea to send a dragon rider, but in the end, how much time is it? Storm's End is close. They sail there on their little pleasure barge. Rhaenyra sailed there, and it took 15 minutes to get there or whatever. Obviously, it takes a little longer. But
it took one discussion with Kristen Cole, if I remember.
Exactly. Back and forth. Send Jace, he's very self-confident, so all those things. But, maybe sending the 14-year-old kid who already has confidence issues to someone like Boros Baratheon wasn't a great idea.
And if that's where it ended and he just failed in the mission, okay. But that's not where it ended.
Nope.
So Aemond, before Luke can leave, basically demands that Luke take out his own eye.
In front of everybody, by the way.
In front of everybody, in front of the whole court. Boros, for the tiniest bit of respect you can give the guy, I guess, says, you're not going to fight in my hall. But when Luke turns him down, Aemond says, your eye or your life, I believe. He says it in Fire and Blood. I believe he says it here too. Now I'm forgetting. Now I'm doubting myself.
Okay. I'm not for sure.
I'm pretty sure he says it. And then Boros doesn't let them fight, and Luke goes. And I'm a little confused because by the time Luke gets out there, Vhagar's already gone. And I don't think Aemon could have got out there before Vagar was
Is he
going.
gone? I just we
He's
don't
not
see
there.
him,
Well, we
right?
don't see, you're right. Maybe he's lying down or something. I
Right.
thought we were supposed to get the impression that Vagar had already left.
The
And
Luke's walking out the front door and Aemon's like running as fast as he can out a
yeah,
side door.
it doesn't, yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. But
BRB, Boros.
I did think maybe it was like a Vagar's sensing Aemon's anger, and so he's taken to the air or something, and then he comes back. I don't know. I didn't know what to think.
I got the impression that when he put his head up when Luke arrived, there was like a wall separating
There is a
them,
wall, yeah.
right? And so I was
Yeah.
wondering if we just don't see him right then.
Maybe.
But
Luke gives a look over there and doesn't see him though, and processes that as like, oh, where is he?
like, well,
Or where
yeah,
is
you
she? Sorry,
definitely
Vagar's a female dragon.
sense the urgency, and like the showrunners really wanted us to feel a sense of urgency in the last episode, and I think you and I talked about how it didn't really land for us.
Yeah.
This scene landed. Like I was feeling some serious anxiety from the moment Luke walks out into that rain up to his dragon.
I mean, I was feeling the anxiety from the moment the episode started.
Because you know what's going to happen.
Because we know it's coming.
But they did a really good job of making it an ominous, scary, we got to get out of here right now type moment.
So if I can, just a quick sidebar here. This is, to me, when I stopped watching Game of Thrones, this is kind of where the downfall starts, right? So you mentioned the Greens and them wanting to feel a sense of urgency in that scene. Guess who wrote that scene? They did. Guess who wrote this one? George did. As soon as you start deviating from what George intends, you run into this shit where you've got bad scenes. That Aegon chase was the biggest waste of time this whole season.
It was probably my least favorite moment. Yep, I agree.
And I mean, it took damn near half the episode. And what we have here is some intensity and some real drama and some real anxiety about this. And guess what? George wrote it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true for every scene. The showrunners have written some really great scenes that aren't in Fire and Blood. And so
that's true.
I see what you're saying.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I am worried. We'll get to it in the sign-off comments maybe, but I'm worried about how far off these guys will end up with some of the changes they've made. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
So so they go.
Yeah, the book says the tragedy that befell Lucerys Valerian at Storm's End was never planned. On this, all of our sources agree.
Yeah, never planned, like Alicent saying to Aemon before he leaves, oh, and if Luke shows up, kill him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Luke is flying away. You feel that anxiety. It's rainy out. We get one of the coolest moments I've seen on House of the Dragon. Maybe one of those that's going to go down as one of those just iconic scenes, period, on screen.
One of the shots.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, with Vagar over top. Yeah.
The shadow of Vagar, or not that it's not a shadow.
It's just him through the clouds.
It's him through the clouds. So it almost feels like those scenes when you see a shark under the water and you just kind of see its hazy form, but this one's from above, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so effective.
With Arax below him and how just tiny Arax is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're reading Fire and Blood, I couldn't process the magnitude of the difference in size. To me, dragons are just big. We're just big. And House of the Dragon really helped me see the magnitude of the difference between these two dragons.
Some things you don't I mean, they specify it very clearly in Fire and Blood. It says Vagar is 5 times as big as Arax.
Yeah.
But sometimes, even when things are described very specifically, you still can't imagine.
My mind, I guess, doesn't work that way. This made it look like Arax was a mosquito. It's not that bad, but...
Well, listen, there's a reason why billions of people love TV shows and millions of people love books. People, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, people like to imagine things when they read books, but way more people like to see the things instead of having to imagine them. And so seeing this was effective, let's say, iconically effective. Perhaps.
Yeah. And Aemond is just shouting it at Lucerys, egging him on. I don't know how he would have heard him over the storm and
Stupid.
everything, but
Stupid. It's one of my first complaints. Strike one. Spectacle over accuracy. They're going for spectacle of these boys having some sort of repartee through the lashing lightning and thunder and rain. It's stupid.
I don't think it's stupid. I see Aemond having a very cathartic moment and just yelling, whether Luke can hear him or not.
Yeah, but
Finally
he's yelling,
being able to have this plaything.
But he's yelling things that he expects Luke to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he doesn't care whether he hears or not, I guess.
That's what I'm saying is at this point, it's not about Luke hearing it. I think even it's Aemond just letting it all out and having the time of his really mixed up life.
I'm sticking with stupid, but obviously you're entitled to your opinion.
I love this scene, and I don't think you do. And so that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, mostly what I hate is what it does to Aemon's character. I mean, the argument that he didn't actually want to kill Lucerys is ridiculous to me. He's flying far too close for this to be a prank or just bullying. If not for Eric's very elusive move to avoid Vagar's claws, they would have been crushed in the talons way before the accidental move. And Aemon was very clearly doing those moves on purpose, right? Chasing after him and swooping right into him from above. And you owe a debt, boy. Well, this is not how you collect a debt, right? This is... Aemon very clearly is coming after this boy to kill him. And making it seem like an accident later, it just feels like we're being jerked around to me. And further, like, I know George is big on gray characters, but it's okay to have villains too. Aemon is a fucking villain. Just let him be a villain. Just let him be a villain. He's been from every it's insulting to your audience to show them a character behaving a certain way every single time you see him, and then have him behave a different way one time, just for, I don't know, to give him some sort of likability from people, or I don't know. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm not done. I could talk about this for an hour, but go ahead.
And my feelings are pretty much completely the opposite of yours. I don't want to just see a black and white villain. I love seeing someone who is a little more fleshed out, and I feel like we have gotten glimpses of that, but we also get an Aemond who we've come to know isn't going to think logically, is going to act irrationally, is going to come after Luke, not thinking about the consequences, taking a nuclear weapon to a schoolyard squabble, and showing you can't just use a dragon to fulfill your petty whims and chase a little boy around. Viserys says the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. He said that in an earlier episode. And this
Episode
hammered
1.
it home. And I think that's part of what this scene was meant to do. Viserys says there are power men should never have trifled with, one that brought Valyria its doom. And now we're seeing that we're getting inklings of this could be this idea that men can control their dragons. It brought Valyria its doom, and now could potentially bring House Targaryen its doom. And so I really liked that from that perspective of hammering home the idea of you can't just use a nuclear bomb to satisfy your little whims.
But that's the thing. He's not. Aemon is not using a bomb to satisfy his whims. He's using a bomb to go kill someone. That's the read we have on him from day one to this moment, right?
Day one to this moment.
I mean, as soon as he claims Vagar and loses his eye, this is a child bent on revenge, frankly wanting to kill these children. He shows it at the dinner scene. He shows it every time he interacts with them. He's trying to intimidate and scare and put fear into them, and he wants to kill them. I don't think he thinks of this as a fun little game that, oh yeah, I've got the bigger dragon and it's fun to terrify you. He wants to murder this kid.
I think it's somewhere in between that. I don't think he's playing a fun little game either. I don't think he's thinking. I seriously don't think Aemond is thinking here. He's not planning this out. He sees an opportunity, like Daemon saw an opportunity to attack the High Towers. He sees Luke flying away by himself on a smaller dragon, and he chooses to pursue. I don't think he had in his mind that I'm going to have my dragon eat your dragon, but he's going to pursue, and he's just going to go after him. Like a road rage incident where you're not even thinking about, like,
I
we just had
entirely
a recent incident where that happened in Salt Lake. Well, I won't get into that, but you just find yourself like in a road rage, and you find yourself following this car and tailgating them with no thought as to what would actually happen if the guy stopped and got out of his car or something like that. You're not even thinking about it. You're just going.
Just like we talked about how Daemon has ruminated and thought for years and decades about how to defend Dragonstone.
I get that.
I believe Aemon has thought for years about how to murder these children and get revenge.
I think he's thought about revenge too, for sure.
And so I just think it makes him weaker that we're now putting doubt into him. Just let him be who he is.
All right.
He's a kid bent on revenge and wants to kill someone.
I see what you're saying.
Making an accident feels, I don't know, it's like pulling the chair out from under me. When I understood this character,
I wouldn't even call it an accident. I wouldn't. I'd call it him not even thinking, and then it happens in front of him, and he's like, oh crap. To me, an accident would be like they were flying and they weren't like they just were passing in the night, and that's an accident to me, and one runs into the other. That's an accident.
But going in with the intent to bully someone and then causing their death would be an accident. But you're not saying that's what he did, right?
No, he's going into bullying for sure.
If I'm a kid and I come over to a smaller kid and I'm trying to give them a wedgie and bully them, and I slap them in the face or something, and then I happen to, when I'm picking up the wedgie, drop them and they hit their head on a rock. That was an accident. I had no intent to really murder the person. That's an accident.
I'm defining accident a little differently, and I don't think we need to squabble about it.
Yeah.
Accident to me comes across as no malicious intent at all. In the schoolyard squabble, it would be you were running with, like you're running for a soccer ball or something, and you are coming from opposite directions and you hit each other, and the kid falls down and hits his head and dies. That to me is an accident.
They're both accidents.
Okay. And this is obviously I'm saying it's different than that. He's going in with the intent to bully, to hurt, to do whatever, but the magnitude of what he just did doesn't hit him until he's done it. Like the road rage incident I'm talking about. Someone cuts you off and you're tailing them and you're following them and you get them, and then you stop, and all of a sudden a gun is brandished, you end up shooting the person. Then afterwards you calm down and go, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just killed somebody, right? That just happened in Utah. I saw it on the news just the other day, or just today. And so it's fresh on my mind. But that's, to me, kind of what happened with Aemond right there. I know you don't agree with it. I think we both set our sides, but that's where I'm at with it. And I do think it's meant to drive home that idea of we control dragons is an illusion. Men controlling dragons is an illusion.
Yeah, I don't hate that part of it. I don't hate that part of it.
All right. It was a cool death scene. Pieces of the dragon falling out of the sky.
And for his part, the actor playing Aemond does a fantastic job. I mean, he sells it very well. I just don't believe it as storytelling.
Yeah, his look is not one of sorrow, I wrote. It's, oh, I effed up bad.
Yeah. Like, not regret, but like...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what does this mean?
My mom's going to be pissed. Yeah. The book does make clear that they never discovered Luke's body.
Yeah.
And this fits with that, because his body is in Vhagar's belly, at least parts of it. Condal
also had an explanation for Aemon's the change from Fire and Blood, which Fire and Blood is very clear that Aemon went to murder this person.
Yep.
But Connell's explanation is a little baffling to me too, and that's maybe part of what reads into this for me. I don't remember where I read this. Somebody screenshotted on Twitter, I think, but he basically said, like, I just don't believe anyone that was there really knew how this happened.
Right.
Like,
which is an excuse you can use for anything in Fire and Blood.
For anything, anytime.
Yeah, that's the out this show has.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, I'll get to that in my sign off. It's a good out. It's a good out to have.
Yep. And sometimes it works for people, and sometimes it doesn't work for people.
It is a beautifully filmed fight as well. It's gorgeous watching these dragons move and work against each other, and flying into the little narrow chasm was smart. Maybe just land there and stay for a while. But
probably, yeah.
And then anything else on the fight?
He escapes out of the storm and into the calm. And that's when Vhagar comes and kills him. It's effective. Right?
It is effective. Yeah. Out of nowhere. But everyone knew it was coming, right?
Well, of course.
Like, always brightest before the dark.
There you go.
So the result of that action is a beautiful scene. I think a brilliant decision. No words, just music in this scene.
Right.
Music and physical acting, of course. And who knew that Daemon's news that he had tamed Vermithor would bring such a strong reaction from Rhaenyra? Because that's what he told her, right?
That's exactly it. How did he find out about Luke before everyone else? I don't get that, but
yep, it's okay.
I was wondering if that scene was actually like days after. And
yeah, could be,
because Daemon, he mentions that he's got contacts in the City Watch. If Aemon had already gotten back to King's Landing, the word had gotten out, and that was reported to Daemon. And got back to him. But
I mean, they could have been expecting him back, and then he didn't come back, and so they sent a raven to Boros, and Boros is like, I don't know, but it didn't look like it ended well.
Yeah,
or something.
And it is the one moment where I talked about Daemon is not good at consoling, where we get a little bit. He kind of holds her hand.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I'm really mixed on the choice to deliver that information with their backs to us. On the one hand, Emma does a superb job just processing this, even with her back showing.
Yeah. Her shoulders. It's in her shoulders almost.
Yeah, you can see them like clenching, and Rhaenyra very much is struggling.
Great shoulder acting.
And then the face when she turns around is just, it's very clear that Rhaenyra is no longer playing games. All out war destruction from here. There's like a vein on their head popping out. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. She managed to somehow convey fire and also deadness. There's like a deadness in her eyes, but also a fire in her eyes. And I don't know how you do the two of those things together, but she did it.
Yeah, they did it, and it feels, it resigned and dead. You're right. It's like Rhaenyra knows she'll never feel as full of life again, and also never as angry again either. And so it's like dead, but also fire. You're right. It's really cool. And on the other hand, I would have really liked to see Rhaenyra process this. Like, again, like I said, I want to see the human brain figuring things out and what happens behind the eyes when they're hearing this information.
Not just her shoulders.
It's good to be right up in an actor's grill and watch them work with their eyes, to me. But again, the result was fantastic. It's hard to complain about it. I mean, it was really well done.
Agreed. That's it.
That's it. That's the end of season 1.
Yep. That's it.
That's the end of season 1. Are we on prediction time then?
Yeah, for sure.
So
overall, let me ask you, Scad, what'd you think of this season?
I liked it. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I talk a little bit about it, I think, in my in my sign off, but I think I hold it to a higher standard than anything else because I'm so invested in the material and the source material. So it makes it hard to give it like just a joyous thumbs up. I really enjoyed it because I'm not judging it on whether I enjoy it. I'm judging it on all these other things also.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it.
Yeah.
I certainly liked it more than the third and fourth scenes of Game of Thrones.
Right. Yep.
And you?
Me too.
Yeah.
I think for the exact opposite reason. Like you said, I watch my shows so I can feel something. That's what I look for in media I consume, whether it's music or books or whatever, especially music, but in shows as well, as I try to pay attention to how it makes me feel. And this show definitely made me feel. So it was effective for me. I liked it a lot.
I don't think that's untrue about me either.
Sure. But you just said you went into it with high expectations for how
not high expectations. I'm holding it to a different standard. It's not just about enjoyment. It's about this material that I respect.
Sure.
Right? So it's got a different bar that it's trying to hit than most.
Yeah.
But I think the beauty of this show is in the personal conversations, the little scenes in between council meetings, the beauty of the human condition that we see in so many of its forms. That's where this show succeeds.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll take those any day over dragon fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Which I think we've talked about before. Yeah.
So
I loved it. But for me too, like, you know how I am, I can compartmentalize really well. Like if it's not true to the books, whatever, I still got the book and I'll be fine.
Yep. This is the most teased sign off ever, but that's in my sign off.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
And I have nothing great for a sign off. So maybe we'll just let you do it.
It's certainly long enough to cover for us both. But.
Okay.
So should we do Dragons After Dark?
Yes. So we're now moving listeners into our spoilerific chat. So hop off if you don't want to hear that, or hang around, because here we go. Dun, 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 dun.
Dragons After Dark.
Okay, what do you got? Because I don't have too much.
No, predictions. I'm gonna go order a pizza and watch Friday Night Lights now that our coverage is over. That's my first prediction. No, I mean my predictions are more broad now. They're I think we talked a little bit earlier. I feel like this story diverges more and more character-wise from some things in Fire and Blood, and not always in a bad way. It's just different, and I feel like it's further away from the core material than Game of Thrones was at the end of season 1. Right? I mean, Game of Thrones, the first season was very close to the book. And then we know where that landed, right? It landed very far away.
Particularly in that you had fleshed out characters who were, given to us through POV chapters. And so it was very much like they just followed along with who Ned Stark was, with who Catelyn Tully was, as presented in the books. Tyrion Lannister, Jaime Lannister, all those people, Daenerys Targaryen. In this one, you do have the vague, not quite filled in characters where they have some of that freedom.
Yep.
And they fill in some stuff and they change some stuff too, to your point.
Here's where my prediction might be wrong. So I've said it feels like, if you miss early, it seems like you'll miss bigger later, right? Just things just change and change and change. But the things they changed, they're not the major beats. Like the major beats are still happening. So it might not be out of control that way. We'll see.
Yeah, to your point, having Aemond not mean to kill Luke. In the end, Luke's still dead. The major beat is still hit, that Lucerys Velaryon is dead.
And probably even character-wise, Aemon's going to get back probably and be a hard ass about it and be like, yeah, I killed him on purpose. What are you to do about it? So it won't even really change much for how his family perceives him. It's just an internal mental thing maybe. So, so it might not drift too far. I think we'll all cheer when Kristen Cole dies in season 2.
So, I guess, Yeah, that could be season 2,
right?
I'm trying to think of timeline.
It could be 3.
It could be 3.
It could be 3.
It takes a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on what they insert. We could have a whole Stepstones episode again, right?
They certainly dragged out plenty of material for this one. Mostly
maybe they'll
effective.
spend a whole other
Mostly
episode searching for Aegon.
That's when I say mostly effective.
And my last,
I just didn't love.
Yeah, it wasn't good. My last prediction is the best one of all. I think we will get Winds of Winter before House of the Dragon season 2. And I'm ready.
I was thinking about that. I'm
ready to look foolish for it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. Yep.
Are you any other predictions?
Not particularly. None that you haven't already covered. I obviously think next season's going to open with. I think it could open just on Blood and Cheese. Like that could be the opening scene is blood. They skip all the parts of them scheming, and then maybe they go back and kind of cover it later. Of Daemon's like, I talked to Mysaria and da 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 da. Yeah. But I think that could be the opening scene of season 2 is Blood and Cheese opening the door into Helena's quarters.
Yeah, I've had a few thoughts that I think that it could just be that. That would be just traumatic way to start the season. They usually don't go for the jugular in those first moments of a new season.
Right.
They might. I wondered if it might open on Jason Winterfell, but then that would mean them skipping the Eyrie. But I don't think the Eyrie has the same panache that Winterfell does.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also thought maybe it could start with Daemon and Harrenhal.
Right.
Or arriving in Harrenhal. But yeah, lots of options. Lots of options.
We'll see you in 2 years.
See you in 2 years.
Or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever it is. If we're all alive.
I really don't have much more than that.
All right.
Is this our shortest Dragons After Dark of all time?
Well, it is. I mean, there's not a specific episode to talk about next, right? There was no preview for it, and I think it's fair.
Yep.
Let's sign off.
I just have a really simple one because I want to get to you. You know, at the top of the episode, Rhaenyra talked about how we make our own destiny, and you and I scoffed at that. And my sign off is scoffing at that a little bit, but in a nice way. Got to get back to song lyrics. They're indisputable. So I'll let you do the heavy stuff. Well, I just sign off saying from a song by the Rocket Summer, a great little indie band, song called Circa 46, and the line is, "Life will write the words, but you choose your own melody."
Oh, it's lovely.
Think about that, kids. All right, now the main event.
I don't know if it's heavy. I think it'll mean things to some people. I think other people will just scoff at it and roll their eyes. So I think covering the House of the Dragon I think it really has been a real treat. It's had its up and downs, of course. It's, things that I've liked, things that I've not liked. But I have to be honest, I hold this show, kind of like I said, I hold it under a more powerful and exacting microscope than like anything else, because I love Fire and Blood so much, right? And I love the Song of Ice and Fire world so much. So the sign of is really just to remind everyone that this show is just another version of events. Ryan Condal and Miguel Swashneck they're no better than Eustace or Mushroom or Orwyle or Munkin. It's not the true telling. It's not the how it happened version of this story. It's just another version. And don't let anybody tell you that Fire and Blood isn't the true canon, because it is. It's the true book canon. Does it have unreliable narrators? Yes, it does. That's part of the point of Fire and Blood, I think, to show that histories, both real and fake, are full of unreliable narrators. Every single thing you hear from a human ever is biased by that person's own perspectives and experiences and goals. You can't escape it. Everyone does it in everything they say. What Fire and Blood does lack is a lot of detail, right? We've talked about that a lot of times. A lot of the dialogue between characters is missing. Ryan and Miguel have done a wonderful job filling that in and giving us the breathing a lot more life into the versions of these events, right? And Fire and Blood gave them, a roadmap, and they've chosen a very interesting path to follow, right? But here's the thing: Ryan and Miguel, and even the love of all of our lives, George R.R. Martin, are unreliable narrators themselves. Guess what they want? They want viewers. They want clicks. They want money. They want renewal for multiple seasons. They're picking and choosing the paths to tell that they think will result in the biggest audiences that will keep watching. A true telling, the real story. I mean, what is it? It's a capitalist inspired story. It's a media company inspired story. It's the version they think can sell the best. So they're just like Gildane indicates, they're doing their best to sell a story. So they pick the elements that they think will best sell it. So stop thinking Ryan and Miguel are any better than Mushroom. They're just selling a version of the story meant to accomplish a goal. Eustace wants to protect the Targaryen name. Orwell wants to protect his head. Mushroom wants to convince everyone he has a huge penis. Everyone has their own motivations. And Ryan and Miguel want their paycheck and for the show to continue. The show is the show. The books are the books. Nothing that happens in either invalidates the others. They're just different flavors of the same story. That's it.
I agree with that. Parallel universes. I love it.
Okay. Thanks for listening to me rant. I haven't done a proper SCAD rant in a long time.
I loved most of it. So
most. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Good job.
See you in a while.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.